That turns it on. Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming to our Pontiac Planning Commission meeting for August, unbelievable, 2nd of 2023. I know. I'm going to introduce who's here in the room right now. To my left here at the podium, small podium, is Senior Planner Corey Christensen. Walking in is Mark Yandrick, our Planning Manager. We have of our planning commissioners, Vernita Duval here on my left. Mike McGinnis is on his way. And to my left here is Tim Shepard. To my far right is Sam Henley. Sue Sinclair next to him, Vice Chair Christopher Northcross, and I'm Chairperson Mona Parloff. So I would like to ask for a roll call, please.
Henley?
Present.
Sinclair?
Present.
Northcross?
Present.
Parlov?
Present
Shepard?
Present.
McGinnis?
is on his way.
Okay. And Duval? Okay.
Very good. Are there any official communications?
We have no official communications, but later on in the agenda, under staff communications, we'll share some updates from City Council.
Very good. Thank you for that. Are there any amendments to the agenda for this evening?
Staff has no amendments.
Okay, then I would like to have a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved?
Support.
Roll call?
Henley?
Yes, to approve.
Sinclair?
Yes to approve.
Northcross?
Yes, to approve.
Parlov?
Yes to approve.
Shepard?
Yes, to approve.
Duval?
Thank you. Next, we have meeting minutes for review from two meetings, June 7th and also July 5th of this year. Vernita, any additions or comments about the meeting minutes?
Not at all.
Okay. Tim?
No comments.
Sam?
None.
Sue?
No comment.
Christopher?
No comments.
Nor for me. So I need a motion to accept minutes as is.
So moved? Support?
Very good. Can we do all in favor? All in favor?
Aye.
Very good. All right. Now we are going, do we have any special presentations at the moment?
We have no special presentations. I do have a staff presentation, but I'm going to do it under new business for informational sessions. So.
Thank you for that. Then let's get into our public hearings. The first one we have this evening is ZMA 23-007. It's Wholesale Heating Supply Company at the address of 121 Orchard Lake Road.
Corey Christensen will have this presentation.
Thank you.
Is that on? Yep, okay. So our first hearing tonight is a rezoning case. It's at 121 Orchard Lake Road. They are proposing to rezone two parcels from C1 local business to M1 light manufacturing. This gives you an idea of the location. It's to the west of Woodward on Orchard Lake Road. And this gives you a more zoomed in look to see where the two parcels are. The major parcel takes up, hold on. Sorry. So sorry, my pointer is not working. So there's the major parcel there outlined in red, and then there's a tiny sliver of a parcel located kind of over the building. And then there's also the Clinton River, which is a separate parcel, but it's not part of this rezoning, as it's not actually got a parcel ID. This shows you the zoning map, so you can see adjacent zoning. To the south, you can see it's all that gray. That's M1 light manufacturing, which is what they are proposing to change to. That pink color with the star over it, there you go. There we go. That pink color with the star over it, that is the parcel being proposed to rezone to match the M1 zoning here. This gives you an idea of the site plan of the proposed addition. They're proposing this rezoning eventually because they would like to have an addition to their existing manufacturing facility, which you can see outlined here. The issue is that since the current zoning on which the manufacturing facility sits is zone C1, local business, they're not eligible for any expansions because it would be a violation of the zoning ordinance. So that is why they are requesting to make their whole site zoned the same, M1, and then that would eventually allow them to then go and get their expansion. So comparing the C1 to the M1 zoning district, they are very different, not just in terms of what types of uses, but they are for entirely different industries. The C1 zoning classification is for local business. The idea is that it's for neighborhood commercial uses, types of retail that would cater to the adjacent community who might walk there. That's the idea behind C1. And the uses permitted in C1 there's quite an extensive amount of them, but they all pretty much can be summed up as light commercial. The M1 district is entirely different with no use overlap. So like in the C1 district, there's no manufacturing uses permitted. In the M1 district, it's inverted, so it's all manufacturing uses, which I've outlined here. I'm not going to read all of them, but this gives you an idea of the types of uses that would be permitted. So there are 10 standards that you have to use in order to make your decision. We've been over this several times before, so I'm not going to read all of these, but I'm going to go into my analysis. We have 5 points we really wanted to emphasize. Firstly, under the current designation, the property is only permitted to be used for light commercial activity that serves the immediate neighborhood. The site has been used for manufacturing for several years, and the applicant is simply seeking to bring the underlying zoning into conformity with the use of the property. The M1 zoning district would permit light manufacturing by right and general manufacturing by special exception, which means it would have to be approved by this body. The site is already developed for these uses and does not appear to generate any negative off-site impacts. The city's utilities and services are sufficient to accommodate the proposed use as it is the current use. The boundaries of the requested rezoning district are sufficient for the development proposed by the applicant, and the area of the site is consistent with other M1 zoned parcels in the city. However, this would be the first time we are introducing M1 directly on Orchard Lake Road. The applicant worked with city staff to determine the appropriate zoning district for this property and the development being proposed. The M1 zoning district was selected because it represents the least change necessary to permit the type of manufacturing activity the applicant is currently doing. And so staff recommendation is to approve the rezoning, and also staff would like to have a conversation with the applicant about a condition of rezoning for increasing landscaping along Orchard Lake Road. And then I've outlined 3 sample motions here for your use: an approval, a denial, or if you feel you do not have enough information to make your decision tonight, you may make a motion for a postponement.
Thank you, Corey, for all that good information. Do we have any questions here as my fellow commissioners? Do you have any questions right now, Renita?
I do not.
Okay. Sounds good. Anything from you,
Sam,
Tim, at the
nothing for
moment?
me yet.
Sam, nothing? Something? Anything at the moment?
Are there any actual requirements outlined for the increased screening on Orchard Lake yet, or is that just preliminary?
We have not, just with staff's availability, we've not had an opportunity to have a conversation with the applicant. But they're permitted what is in our zoning code. And, I think from staff's perspective, we'd like to talk to them if they'd be willing to increase that for the aesthetics of Orchard Lake Road, just to continue that, because there's a lot of non-industrial uses on there, and we want to make sure that corridor maintains itself.
And if I may add, the current zoning ordinance does have landscaping requirements along the front of the property. The current requirement is 1 canopy tree per every 35 feet.
All set?
No more questions right now.
Great, thank you. Sue, anything?
No questions.
Chris?
No questions. I'll just listen at the public hearing.
Okay, very good. If the applicant is here, if you could approach the podium, please. Please state your name and address for the record.
There you go.
Thank you.
My name is Steve Sweeney, address 121 Orchard Lake Road, Pontiac, Michigan. I currently am the CEO of Wholesale Heating Supply. A little bit of background: it's a family-owned business. My grandfather started the company. We're approaching 50 years next year. We've been at the same facility for the 50 years. So 3rd generation. We're really proud. We love the location and the city itself to serve our customers. One thing I want to make clear is we are not a manufacturer. We are simply a distributor and wholesaler for heating and cooling residential products. So there is no manufacturing going on. Secondly, we are here to, this opportunity of expansion is simply to support our existing business for future growth, and it is not to change our function of business to manufacturing. We simply are going to be doing the same thing we've been doing for 50 years, just looking for some more room and space to grow. And I will introduce Brad.
Good evening, Bradley DeVries, Slow Tide Studio Architects. Thank you so much for the presentation. As you can kind of see from the presentation, we have a very unique set of lots, and I think that was maybe not abundantly clear in the presentation is currently the property and the building sits on 3 parcels that are all owned by Wholesale Heating Supply. There's the 2 in the C1, but then the other kind of landlocked triangular shaped one is an existing M1 lot. So we're trying to make our 3 lots into 1 lot and bring them all to M1. We explored kind of a few different options for where this addition could potentially go. And, you know, one of the other places we explored was to the back of the building, but there's a permanent easement for the Clinton River back there. So that was not a viable option. So that's where it led us to kind of our front option along Orchard Lake, and the need for the rezoning. And, you know, in the staff report, it notes that, you know, this may have changed out from under it, but as Steve detailed, you know, Wholesale's been here for 49 years operating as a wholesale distributor. So I'm not sure when the C1 happened, but the property has been used, so we're just continuing our existing use and not intensifying it, just adding a little bit more storage to have continued growth of the business here.
Great. The parcel that ends in 009, is that your parcel or not?
009.
It's along Congress Street there.
No.
That one's not yours? Okay.
It's 007 that's the existing M1 lot, 014. And then there's that little sliver that's only 20 feet wide that crosses over the
Oh,
grass
that tiny
piece.
little one.
And then
Okay.
there's a section in the middle that is not a parcel.
Okay.
That's the Clinton River, which isn't
running
part of this.
underneath.
Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah, so a very irregular set of parcels with odd zoning, no real contiguous boundary. We also have our existing M1 lot it doesn't have any street frontage, so it's kind of on an island back there.
Okay. And since, it might be a very obvious question, but because there's no manufacturing going on, it's just distribution, that would fall into the M1 need? Okay.
Yep.
Just wanted to be clear on that. Okay.
Yeah, the official from the zoning is wholesale and distribution of non-toxic and non-hazardous materials.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, I'll go to my commissioners. Vernita, questions right now? No?
I appreciate you wanting to expand and stay in Pontiac. That's very,
Thank you. Tim?
I think it's great. I don't see any objections at all, but, and I'm assuming we're gonna add the landscaping plan, but they already do a pretty good job, so I'm sure you're gonna do it anyway, but I would probably wanna put it in there just for the heck of it. But everything I've seen driving by that place a million times, it looks great. I have a question, maybe the architect can, but is there water flow? Do you see much water flow in the Clinton River right there? I mean, is there actually
It's underground.
that's still underground right there?
Yeah, and if you look at the aerial maps before kind of the light gray portion
Yeah, it
of the
comes
building
down,
was
right?
there, it actually came close to the building, went under the building, and then kind of came out again on the other side. You can kind of see it to the left. But then sometime, from best I can tell, in like the late 90s, early 2000s, it was rerouted, and it's now underground to the south of the building, which is why we can't put an addition there.
Okay. Other than that, it looks great, but I was just curious about that. If you knew that.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I'm not sure of the whole history, but it's interesting how
love to see it.
the river's been moved around over the years.
It has. We'd love to see it opened up again. The Phoenix Center would be nice.
Great. All set?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Sam, anything?
No more questions.
Okay, Sue?
I just want to make a general comment. I drive by this facility daily on my way to work, and I've never seen a piece of trash. It's always looked absolutely immaculate, even down to the person that unlocks the gates in the morning. You don't block Orchard Lake Road, and I just can't say and appreciate you guys enough. Thank you.
Thank you, Sue. Chris?
I'll reserve my comments until after the public hearing.
Okay, very good. I'm all set as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up public hearing. You gentlemen can have a seat if you'd like us. And if anyone has a comment they'd like to make, you have 3 minutes. And please state your name and address for the record. Once public comment is open, people can approach the podium, but once we've closed it, please do not have conversations from the gallery. We will aggregate any questions you have and answer them if we can once we've closed public hearing. So I'm going to open it now. Please approach the podium and bring us any comments you may have. And I think that everyone's thinking great thoughts. So I'm going to close public hearing, public comment, I should say. And now we can take final questions. Anything?
I think it's great.
Good.
No questions.
Sam? All set. Sue?
No question.
All right, Christopher.
And I agree with Sue. I've lived in this area most of my life, and I've always seen that area well kept and always a real gem. So, yes, thank you. Thank you for staying in Pontiac, and I would be in support of this change. Yes.
Very good. Thank you. Do you do boiler parts? Do you carry your boiler parts? Okay, good, because we have a lot of boilers in this area with our old houses. And thank you for being here for so long, and when you have your 50th party next year, let us know. All right, I would like to have a motion from someone, please.
I move to recommend approval of the proposed rezoning of 1075 East Walton Boulevard from R1, one-family dwelling, to C1, local business, based on,
Oh, not
I'm on
Walton.
the wrong one.
Maybe that'll work when we get that far. But we're going to go to
The
Orchard Lake
proposed
right now.
rezoning from C1, local business, to M1, light manufacturing at 121 Orchard Lake Road.
Great, with any additional,
With the increase.
So if I can add,
the-
staff, or planning commission cannot really enact a condition unless the applicant is offering it because it's a rezoning, so.
okay. All right, so we'll leave it as was
Yeah.
proposed. Support?
Support?
All right, roll call, please.
All right, may I get the second on that?
It was,
Sue.
Sue, okay, thank you. All right. Shepherd,
Yes to approve.
Parlov,
yes to approve.
Northcross,
Yes to approve.
Sinclair,
Yes to approve.
Henley,
Yes, to approve.
Duval.
Yes to approve.
The motion passes 6-0. The motion passes 6-0, and I will be in touch when this goes to city council. Thank you.
Congratulations. You're welcome. All right, our next item that we have for public hearing would be ZMA 23-010. This is for Jason Ayer. It's a zoning map amendment for 1075 East Walton Boulevard.
And Chair, if I may ask, as we go forward with these motions, if you could recap who made the motion, who seconded, that would help us with the minutes.
Sure.
Okay, awesome.
Yep.
Thank you.
All right. So our second public hearing today is another rezoning. This time it is a request at 1075 East Walton Boulevard to rezone from R1, one family dwelling, to C1, local business. This gives you an idea of the impacted parcels. There are 4 parcels at the northwest corner of Giddings Road and Walton Boulevard that will be impacted. All 4 are currently zoned R1 and being proposed to be rezoned to C1 in order to develop a commercial retail facility very similar to what you see at the northeast side of Giddings and Walton Boulevard. This is the zoning map to show you what the current zoning is and adjacent zoning. You can see it's a very mixed area at that intersection. So you got C1 at the northeast side. It's all residential on the west side. And then the polka dot area, that's residential as well. It's just a modified version of the R1 district. So comparing R1 to C1, they do propose entirely different uses. R1 is primarily for single-family homes and a few community uses such as cemeteries, community centers, schools, or religious institutions, but it is our most restrictive district, and its intent is for single-family homes. C1 is intended for local commercial. It allows uses such as bakeries, banks, restaurants, funeral homes, learning centers, medical clinics, retail, community centers, and more. And then there's some uses allowed by special exception. This is the view of the current existing lot of land. And then here's the other view. This is looking east, and this is looking west on the property. You can see it's undeveloped. There's just that sign there. Here's a conceptual plan. This is not a complete site plan. This is just a conceptual plan brought forward by the applicant to give you an idea of what they're proposing. And then here are the 10 standards of approval, which you are familiar with. And then our analysis. Under the current designation, the property is only permitted to be used as a single-family residence or for some institutional uses such as community centers or schools. The site has been zoned this way since at least 2012 and has not solicited interested developers. This lack of interest indicates the zoning is misaligned with the optimal use of the property. The C1 zoning district would introduce higher intensity uses than would be permitted otherwise. Developing the site as a commercial operation poses risks to the neighboring residences. The applicant has indicated they will provide proper buffers and screening as necessary to protect the adjacent residences. The city's utilities and services are sufficient to accommodate the proposed commercial use. The site is located at the northwest corner of Giddings Road and East Walton Boulevard. Both streets are for high volumes of traffic and can easily accommodate more commercial uses. The northeast corner of the intersection has already been developed for commercial with no negative impact on the street network. The applicant worked with the city staff to determine the most appropriate district. C1 was chosen because it's the least change necessary. And then approval of the request to rezoning will not create an isolated or incompatible zone since the property directly to the east is already zone C1 and it is in character with the intersection. And so with that, staff met with the applicant to discuss possible conditions of approval. While the applicant did not volunteer any conditions of approval, there was consideration for a larger landscape buffer between this property and the adjacent residentially zoned properties. As of this publication, no formal condition has been offered by the applicant. And again, in rezoning cases, conditions must be offered by the applicant. But staff recommends approval of the rezoning without any conditions. And then here are 3 sample motions.
And if I could add to that, Corey, thank you for the presentation. Really, we were talking about between C1 and the adjacent residential properties. Our code, if you have a wall, only requires a 5-foot landscape buffer between the parking lot and the adjacent properties. And we were wondering, could this be increased at all? Now, they have gone through that concept drawing for reference, and right now they're looking at something that is 5 to 10 feet, but we don't know that at tonight. So we'll have those discussions moving forward. But for tonight, I would consider this without any conditions.
And just for clarification, once we make a decision, does this go to city council for their input?
Absolutely. And the applicant does have the ability to offer those conditions before it goes to city council for readings.
Okay, very
Yep.
good, thank you.
Okay.
Quickly, Vernita, any questions right now?
No, I remember the presentation from last month, and I liked it then, so I still like it. Nothing has changed.
Okay, very good.
Same, no questions.
All right, Sam?
No questions.
All right, Sue?
No questions.
Chris?
No questions. I'll wait until after the public hearing.
Very good, all right. I don't have any questions at the moment either, so if we have our applicant here in the room, if you could approach the podium, please, and state your name and address for the record.
There we go. Jason, AR 1101 East Walton Boulevard, Pontiac, Michigan 48340.
Thank you. Do you have anything you would like to add to the presentation this evening?
No, it's basically still the same as last time we all spoke.
It was only about a month ago, actually.
Yes.
Very good. Well, thank you for coming back.
Yep, you got it.
Since you don't have anything new to add, what I'm going to do is I'm going to open the floor to public comment, since this is a public hearing.
Sure.
If you want to have a quick seat. And again, if anyone has a comment, you'll have 3 minutes to state whatever you'd like to share. And we will aggregate any questions that you may have, and we'll review them once we close public hearing. Again, once public hearing is closed, we don't have conversations from the gallery. All right, I'm opening public comment. If anyone has anything to say. And by the way, please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, and I would like to welcome Mike McGinnis. Thank you, Mike.
Hi, I'm Rosa Cardiel, and I live right at 1471 Giddings. So I'm excited for this plan. That's why I'm here. And I think it's a good idea, so I would approve it if that's what you're looking for. So that's all I really have to say.
Thank you. Thank you for coming out and showing support. Mhm. And anyone else has anything they'd like to share? All right, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to close public hearing. And I'm going to start at my left. For Nita, anything else?
No, I just think it's a great idea, and it's a testament to the expansion and people wanting to stay and redevelop and add to the economy for Pontiac, and it's just, I just love it all. So thank you, Joseph. No, wait, what am I looking at? Did I say that right? Thank you, Jason. Sorry.
Thanks. Michael, welcome.
Okay, well, good. I'm sure he's going to be helping you, so tell him I said thank you.
Michael, anything you would like to add?
Well, good evening, and thank you to the residents that live nearby that came out to offer your feedback. I think it's really helpful that we are able to have information sessions so that way we're already apprised of this proposal. We're already, continuing to refine and hone our understanding. So I'm grateful for the applicant having been here previously and having provided some context for what is proposed. As I shared last month, I think it makes very much sense that the Walton Boulevard corridor, it's a commercial corridor, and so the zoning should reflect that accordingly. We recognize that as our city continues to grow, evolve, and age, that we're evolving how we've also had land use, that there are some areas on a busy thoroughfare that did have single-family residential that might not be where we look to be 50 or 100 years from now, and it very much makes sense that this prominent intersection, this prominent corner, be a thriving, beneficial, prosperous commercial destination for residents, visitors, students alike. Imagine there'll be many Notre Dame Prep and Marist Academy families that will take advantage of the commercial opportunity here as well. Thank you.
Great, thank you. Sam,
I'll be Sam.
He's got a brother named Sam.
I say something that'll get him in trouble. No, I think we've already talked about this enough. I think this is a fairly easy process to get this part rezoned. Just bring us something great when your plans are put together. That's really what we want to see. So we already saw what you did next door, so far so good. But thank you. No further comments.
very good, thank you. Now, Sam.
No questions, just a general comment that I think this is a much better use of that corner than the nothing that is currently there. And it's nice to see that you have the support of the surrounding residents.
Thank you. Sue?
My only comment is that I appreciate the fact that you've indicated that you want to respect the adjacent residences by working with them on the buffer and landscaping. Definitely appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Chris?
I agree with all of the comments made by my colleagues, so I'll leave it at that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. And I was by that intersection today. It looks great. Your new restaurant has beautiful signage. Everything is nice and clean over there. So I wish you great success going forward, and congratulations on your successes thus far. You're welcome. All right, so I need a motion, please.
This is my time to shine.
Yes.
I move to recommend approval of the proposed rezoning from R1, one-family dwelling, to C1, local business, based on the findings of fact identified in the staff report.
Support.
Oh, we have lots of support. Do you need names?
North Cross on that one.
Okay,
No,
great.
No, I believe that was either Tim or
We had
Go that
Sue.
way. That's fine.
Sue and Tim.
they beat me
Sue's got
to
it.
it. Either one.
Either one. You've got your choice. Okay, very good. Roll call, please.
All right. McGinnis,
Yes to approve.
Shepherd,
Yes to approve.
North Cross,
Yes to approve.
Henley,
Yes to approve.
Sinclair,
Yes to approve.
Harlov,
Yes to approve.
Duvall.
Yes to approve.
Motion passes 7-0.
Congratulations.
And I will be in
Good job.
touch as well when this goes to city council. So.
Congratulations.
Looking forward to it.
Okay, now we are on to our last public hearing for the evening. This is application SCP 23-011, Michael Fanazzo. It's a special exception for 101 East Walton Boulevard.
Okay, so today's request is for a special exception for automotive services at this location. Automotive services facilities require a special exception permit in the C1 district and are subject to an approval process set forth in section 6.303, which requires a public hearing as we're doing now. And while automotive service is a broad category that includes several uses, they are specifically going to be operating as a brake repair shop. This gives you an idea of the location. It's on the north side of Walton Boulevard to the east of Baldwin. Here's the zoning map, and you can see the star. It's kind of faint, I should have made that bigger. But this gives you an idea of where it is currently located. It's surrounded by residential to the north and C3 at higher intensity commercial use to the south and the west, and then other C1 along Walton Boulevard. This shows you the existing conditions. This is the existing building. They're not going to be expanding the building. This is going to be remaining on this footprint. They're just going to be operating as a brake service. And you can see the parking lot as it currently exists when this area was taken with several cars stored. These are current conditions. These were taken, I believe, in May. Street View or Google Street View went by in May, so we use those. This shows looking east, and this is looking west at the property. This gives you an idea of the site plan, but again, they're not going to be changing it. This is what was already built. So it says proposed addition. That's because that was what was submitted when they did go for the addition, but this is the current building footprint. So for special exceptions, there are only 4 standards that you need to use in order to make your decision. And I'll go over our analysis for each standard. For the first, according to the most recent master plan, the subject site is located in a district that is intended for neighborhood commercial. While the master plan encourages neighborhood commercial to be human scale as opposed to auto-oriented, the priority is redeveloping commercial sites to provide services to the neighborhood. The proposed use of this site is in compliance with this intention. This stretch of the Walton Boulevard corridor is mostly zoned commercial and has attracted higher intensity uses that generate larger volumes of traffic, such as fast food restaurants and strip malls. The proposed use suits the character of the area in this regard. The proposed use will not alter the essential character of the area, which has developed into a higher density commercial corridor. And automotive service facilities such as this are classified as a high pollutant producing land use. And as a consequence, they must provide a water pretreatment plan to protect the city's waterways and adjacent properties from contamination. So our recommendation is for approval, but with 4 conditions to address those concerns. The first, service and repair work shall be conducted within a completely enclosed building. 2, required stormwater pretreatment plan shall be provided and approved by the city of Pontiac, provided to the city and approved by. Vehicles will not be stored outside, and all the conditions of the associated site plan approval will be honored. And then lastly, I have sample motions for you to use.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Corey, can you go back to the recommendation sheet? I just want to clarify something for the applicant and planning commission. Number 3 is just related to our zoning code. You can park cars on the outside, and I want to make it clear that you can do that. Outside storage where a vehicle is out there for multiple weeks at a time would be prohibited. So I just wanted to differentiate that for the purposes of this use. So,
Thank you for that.
and this use is existing, so staff did have some, examples both for the special exception and the site plan. The applicant has come in a timely manner once getting a ticket, is going through the process to get the necessary things that are in place for the site. Previous uses were a little less intense and fit within the C1 category, but this is the first time that is requiring a special exception for this zoning district. So.
Okay, thank you. Does anybody have any questions initially for Nita?
No, my question was answered about the vehicles will not be stored outside.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Michael, anything right now?
My question was about what prompted or necessitated us to consider this. Was there an ownership change? Because my understanding is that it's the existing, it's not a new proposed use, so it's a matter of the intensity was increased.
I actually believe, as part of our code enforcement, it was found that that business did not have a proper license. And so that triggered that, hey, it has not received its building occupancy, not received its zoning certificate. So that's what triggered that.
Okay. I'd be, when the time is right, I'd like to hear from the applicant how long they've been at the facility and just some context about the site. I'm trying to remember all the different uses over the years of the building, and there might be another side or another suite to the building, so the applicant can fill me in on that. Yeah.
We'll have some more information about that because there's actually a welding facility on the east side of the building, but this applicant is telling us that they're moving out shortly. And so we have a condition as it relates to the site plan because that's also not something that's permitted in the zoning district.
Okay.
Yep.
Right, Tim, anything right now?
Yeah, it's a tough one, but I think I'm gonna hold my thoughts till we kind of hear.
Sounds good. Thank you. Sam, anything right now?
I generally have the same questions as Mike.
Okay.
So I'll just wait to hear from the applicant.
All right, Sue?
Mark, I actually have a question for you. You talk about no vehicle storage outside. Currently, there's 2 facilities that do automotive repair, one off of Orchard Lake Road and one off of Huron. And I actually made a complaint regarding a car that sat at a church for years. It was on its rims, and code enforcement got it removed, and now it's sitting at an automotive service facility on Huron, and it's just sitting there. What constitutes vehicle storage outside? Does a car have to move a certain amount of, can it sit there for 48 hours? Can it,
May I have a mic, please? Thank you.
Please.
So I think to answer this question, I am going to want to check with legal because this is, I think, the first time I'm being asked this question. But really, there is a difference between parking at a site and doing outside storage, and vehicles can be considered outside storage. And this may be an education process for not only the city and the community, but also the enforcement to follow up with that to make sure we follow the rules that are with that. Again, it's not abnormal for a vehicle to go to a storage facility. Sometimes they're waiting on a part, for a little bit of time, but that should not be 6 months, as an example. But I think we need to determine that within our interpretation of the municipal code and the zoning code. So, and I'd love to talk after this. Okay.
And anything for you, Chris?
I'll wait until after the public hearing.
Okay, very good. Then what I'll do, I'll hold my comments as well. If the applicant is here, if you would like to approach the podium, state your name and address for the record, please.
Michael D. Finazzo, 101 Walton Boulevard, Pontiac, Michigan, 48340.
Great, thank you. Would you like to add anything to the presentation?
On the storage of the vehicles, we basically have another shop in Sterling Heights, Michigan. And they're usually there for, at the most, if you need a transmission, you're waiting on parts for no less than 30 days. If they are, then you guys could come by and give us a ticket because we move them in and out. We don't let vehicles stored, unless it's my vehicle there. It's every day that I'm parking, or an employee's vehicle.
Mm-hmm.
So normally moved, I would say at the most 45 days if it was really something we couldn't get. But yeah, we never try to keep a lot of vehicles on the property because they're in the way.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha. Great, thank you. And then how long have you been at that location?
2 years.
Okay.
Yep.
Just as a curious question, there is a property that is immediately to your north along,
Residential Street?
yeah, what's the name of the side street there next to you?
Price.
Price, thank you.
Yes.
Is that your property?
No.
Okay, thank you for saying that. Thank you for saying
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little bit of a concern. All right, so does anybody have any questions for our applicant? Bernita?
I don't, just listening.
Okay, all right. Michael, any?
Same.
Okay. Anything for you? Sam? All right, Sue, anything else you want to ask right now?
I do actually have a question now that I'm looking at your old site plan. How many parking spots do you have for this facility?
I think there's a total of like 20.
said somewhere we have 12 there, right?
Yeah, that should be in the site plan staff report for this case, the associated site plan.
I'm looking at this and it looks like there's only.
My
possibly-
recollection is
Oh,
12.
there is 12. I see 12 now.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you. Chris, anything?
The length of storage of 30 days, that may be a problem. That may, outside storage of a vehicle for 30 days. I'll wait until we get the legal, but just to let you know.
Well, basically on that was once the guy's storing the metal on the other side, he moves out in December, we'll be able to store the cars on the other side. Because that's another additional 3,000 square feet that we'll be taking over.
Okay, good.
Then there'll be nothing outside. That's what we want.
Great.
Okay.
And I would make a motion that maybe we add a condition that the special exception, if planning commission were to consider it, be for the entire building. What we have is the application is, this is really for the western half of the building, so just so we're clean and tidy with this. Sorry, Mike, to use your terminology, but we would want to make sure that the special exception would be for the entire building, even if the site plan is not. So.
Okay. Are you done, Chris, with your questions?
Well, then how would that read on the recommendation? In the recommendation, I don't see us referring to the lot numbers or anything. What would, making this special exception applicable to the total building already be encompassed with the lot numbers that are being called out, or is that something additional we have to add into the recommendation?
My recommendation on that is that we should probably just add something in the motion that says for the entire building, and that should suffice for this application. The parcel numbers are the same, so it's not like we would need to be adding anything, but that's a great question.
Should we do entire site instead of building, just because we're referencing the parking area as well?
Correct.
That takes care of my questions for right now, and again, I'll wait until after the public hearing for the others.
Okay, very good. Tim, you had another question.
Quick question. Do you own the building? Yes. You do, okay. So you bought it 2 years ago?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Do you have any plans to update the outside area? Is the fence staying up?
We're going to leave it like it is, but we're probably going to keep improving it like we have been.
Okay,
When we got it, it was abandoned, it was closed up, so we've been working on it every day,
okay.
making it better and better every day. I mean, we're going to paint the fence so it looks better. I mean, it's got to look nice for our customers, you know, the better you make it, then the more people that will come in.
Right, I
You
appreciate
know, and
that.
yep.
Is the fence required, like you need that for security, or?
Probably we wouldn't, once if we do the other side and we can put everything inside. But the facility we have in Sterling Heights, we never had a fence. It just seems to work, like we had someone steal the stereo out of a Cadillac that costed like $2,000. They broke the dash out of it and stuff. And I'd have gave them the stereo, but all the damage they did to the car. So the fence kind of, I don't know. I'm kind of comfortable with it.
And
And
I
it's
appreciate
got-
that. For us, for me,
Yeah,
I'm trying to figure out a way that would make it work in my head to make the property look
better.
nicer.
Yeah.
And I'm not criticizing your property, you're using it for what you're using it for.
Yeah.
But when I drive by it, it's not the prettiest sight.
Yeah, we got to do better on the grass. I seen that today, cutting it down, and I got a guy coming to trim the trees.
Yeah, all of that.
We only got so much money every week to do stuff.
Right.
We're working on it, though. We spent a lot of money on that property to move to support
Right.
Pontiac, and, you know, I love the city, and I know it's going to work. It just takes a little bit of time to do it.
I think that's why in my head, I'm trying to figure out a solution.
Oh, yeah.
Because
And
when
believe me, I
drove-
want to do it,
When I
too.
drove by it, it doesn't look great, but you're
No.
also operating a business and you're doing what you're supposed to do.
But I
It's
think
just
when you
how do we
drive
make
by it next year, once we get a little stronger, I think the community likes us. We're a budget break center. People love it. If we charged more money, then we wouldn't be budget breaks, and then we would have nice trees, better trees, but then everybody wouldn't come in because we'd be the most expensive.
Right.
So it kind of worked in Sterling Heights. We did the same thing. We took a closed-up Midas, and it was an eyesore, and we made it in. And if you go by it now, it looks like a flagship, beautiful landscape, like the other gentleman's building. That's what I want to get to. with the, yeah,
All right, thank you. I have no
absolutely.
questions, so thank you.
Thank you. So it's a tenant that is welding in your building?
No, he's actually storing his welding vans in steel, and he's got vans that he goes out. That's the other side of it. No, he's not paying any rent.
Okay, but he's not welding in there either, he's just
No,
storing?
he's just storing stuff, and he's doing portable welding and stuff. He's built a building now in Rose Township, but he's moving. He built a, 8,000 square foot building on his property, so he is moving out of there in December.
Okay,
So,
okay. All right, those are my questions for the moment.
I
So,
have a follow-up question.
oh, sure.
Based on the information now, in terms of that tenant departing and your intention to expand your operation, your footprint, so ideal scenario, what does that look like for you in terms of the entire site? Let's say we fast forward 12 months from December, just to
Yeah.
give you time to acclimate and make the transition. So your intention is to use that additional 3,000 square feet of the building that you own for storage, essentially?
if we need, I mean, normally when you do a brake job, it's 1 day service. That's what we pride ourselves in. But sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days to get a special part, and the car will be sitting outside. It'd be nicer to have it inside.
And that, of course, gives you added security for that way,
Yeah, I mean,
the
yeah.
personal effects and the.
Well,
the
it's
vehicle.
fenced in, but yeah, we'd have it if it was inside. Some people want their 2020 Cadillac inside. They won't even leave it on the property. They're worried about something happening to it, so we always tell them, we're putting in cameras next, so that's another option we're doing.
To confirm and clarify, the smaller one-story sort of storefront, is that directly attached or is it separate from the larger facility?
No, it's all attached.
All attached?
Yeah.
And so did that smaller storefront come first and then the larger, newer facility was glommed on into the back?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
And what do you use that front, smaller storefront for currently?
That's my office.
Okay. That's where you look out on the,
I just got flagged
the
on
grand
that.
vista of Walton Boulevard. That's very good.
I just got flagged on the lights in there. I put brand new lights in the other day.
Okay.
Yeah, when we went through the team inspection, so.
How big is the entire site? Is it less than an acre?
The building's like 6,000 square feet.
Okay.
Yeah, I think it's less than an acre. Once we get the landscaping cleaned up and there's nice trees and everything, we just got to trim them all. I'm working on that. So when you drive by, because like I said, I seen the other gentleman's place and I was like, wow, that looks beautiful compared to ours. So I'm definitely going to work on that.
And what was the building used before your ownership?
It was a sign company, Northern Signs.
Sign. Okay.
Yeah, they built that out originally.
Okay. All right, that concludes my question.
And as a point of order, this site is just under a half acre. Okay.
Okay.
All right. A question for staff. Our applicant is up to code, so to speak, for licenses and all that needs to be done other than this potential rezoning? Is everything all caught up for him?
No, the applicant has applied immediately and does not have current licensing, but he would need to go through this process to obtain it.
Okay.
So,
All right. Is there anything beyond the licensing that's outstanding?
building department as well for
Okay.
occupancy.
Okay. All right, those are my questions then for the moment, and because this is our public hearing, what I'm going to do is I will ask Michael if you want to have a quick seat. I'm going to open up the public hearing. And if anyone has any questions or comments they'd like to make, you'll have 3 minutes to make them. Please approach the podium, state your name and address for the record. We will aggregate any questions you might have and answer them after we close public hearing, and there is no comments from the gallery once public hearing is closed. Thank you.
Thank
State
you
your
very
name and
much. Chuck
address.
Johnson, 21 North Paddock Road, Pontiac. You know, I don't want to spoil anybody's thought or idea of bringing an auto body or mechanic facility into our city, but I think it comes a time when our manager and the city should recognize the fact that these auto repair facilities tend to draw a bunch of cars, and they're always sitting on the lot in a deplorable or unsightly way. Now, I heard the gentleman say that he's opening up this facility because he's doing Pontiac a favor. Well, you're not doing Pontiac a favor when you have a bunch of cars spread out on your lot sitting there for 35, 40 days waiting for a part to repair it. If the car needs a transmission or whatever it may be, and the owner of that car is afraid that something's going to happen to it, he should keep it at home until he's ready to be repaired. Open up an amount for the repair, then to give the mechanic shop the clearance he can bring the car in. But to have these cars sitting around days in and days out, for an example, that place down on Huron Street, they're all over the city. And I think it's time for us to stop allowing these long-term cars, trucks, whatever they may be, sitting on our lots. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chuck, for your thoughts. Does anyone else have a comment they would like to make? Please approach the podium. State your name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Council, Commission. My name is Beatrice Wright. My address is 1268 Oak Lawn Drive, Pontiac, Michigan. I agree with Mr. Jackson in that regard because Mr. Johnson. I'm sorry, I've always thought you were Jackson. Closer to my heart. I have Johnsons. I agree with Mr. Johnson because Pontiac has more than its share of that kind of business. I am very active in the city. I drive around the city, not just to look at the city, but in my daily excursions to errands. And more than our share of businesses that cars sit out, that trucks sit out, they sit on the easement, and I think, in my opinion, I was an educator for 41 years. There was not a year that I went through a classroom or a counseling office uncertified, uncredentialed. And so if we have a licensing requirement for a business, that business needs to be licensed. And that business owner needs to take care of that, I guess, along with Mr. Yandrick, to make sure that they're licensed. Because with that comes some responsibility that I will adhere to other things that are required in my profession. And so those are my opinions.
Thank you very much. Any other thoughts or comments? Okay, then I'm going to close public hearing. And I'm going to start with Vernita. Any final questions, thoughts?
No, I'm going to trust that he is going to do what he says about the storage of cars as well as the cleaning up of the landscaping.
Okay, very good. We don't have Michael at the moment, so Tim, any thoughts?
So I'm about as pro-business as it gets. But I look at this, and if I'm a landlord also, but if I was a landlord, I would say you got to go to the city and find out if this is approved and this use works. So I think what we're almost doing here is it looks like we're going a little backwards. You know, and you're in a tough position because you bought a building based on this use, but this use is not approved. So it's kind of a risk that you take. So my impression is unless there's a way to keep everything inside and clean it up, and I'm just giving you my opinion. But it's not, and there's a couple of comments that kind of went along with this idea. You know, we're doing a lot to, you may not be used to Pontiac, but we're doing a lot to clean things up. And I'm right on that same page that more vacant cars doesn't help us. I appreciate anybody running a business. It's just that bit, if you were in a zoned area that was already set for it, then we wouldn't be having this conversation. But it isn't. So that's my opinion, is unless we come up with a solution that you figure out a way to make this work and make this property look clean and no storage vehicles outside, and I don't know what that looks like, because a lot of times we'll approve things and then we go back and check and it doesn't get taken care of. So that's my opinion on it. So, I appreciate what you're doing. I appreciate you coming to us, but it's kind of a tricky one, so.
Great, thank you. Sam?
No comments.
Okay. Sue?
I have a few. Based on the photo that you have up, the existing conditions, you have a building in the back that is kind of like a bump out. Is that is that a walled structure, or can you drive underneath that? Completely through?
Yeah, could you come back to the podium so our people at home can hear you?
That's one question.
You were on, no, there you go.
Yes, you can drive through that. It's a lean-to.
Okay. Second question, how many employees do you anticipate on having?
2,
Two.
and myself.
So 3?
Yeah, with myself.
Okay, so you've got 3 employees,
Hmm.
and you've got 12 parking spots, 2 of which I assume are handicap. So that leaves you 9 essentially cars. I guess this question will go back to you, Mark, or Corey. Based on the zoning that he is requesting, what are the parking requirements for this?
So this is in the site plan staff report, but the requirement in this district and for this use is 1 space per every 500 square feet of floor area. And by that measurement, the applicant is required 12 spaces.
And Corey, can you answer the question, does inside storage of vehicles count towards that parking requirement?
I don't think so. Does it?
Okay. So, I think that, while that can be a consideration in some cases, I think the inherent nature of this would, because of the parking requirement, would not count towards that. He could utilize inside storage, but the parking requirements are on the outside of the building.
Another comment is, I look at that aerial photo, and while you may not have owned the building at the time that this photo was taken, they're parking in the apron on Price Street. So they're basically blocking that exit. You do have 2 entrances there. My real concern is parking and the storage of vehicles. I see that we're on the agenda for site plan review as well, so maybe I should save that till that time. All right.
Actually, it is a condition that we have in the site plan that vehicles cannot be blocking the Price Street exit. That's very clear from our code for safety purposes that you can get access onto that street. But, as part of a special exception consideration, is the use too intense for the site, and while staff is supportive of this, the applicant still has a responsibility to follow, the parking requirements, follow the guidelines, and make sure that there's not a gluttony of cars being stored outside, so.
He's got 2 entrances now. It would be nice to see.
Actually, there's a third curb cut there, it looks like, to
Right,
the east of his office.
right. There's 3 curb cuts right now. It would be nice to see the third on Price Street removed, in my opinion. That would give him at least 2 more parking spots. That's just a comment. I guess I'll save that for site plan review. That's it for me.
All right,
Thank you.
Chris?
Well, thank you for coming to Pontiac. I guess as I look at this, if you had, if this had been presented initially for a special exception permit before you open the business, I think I would be inclined to also accept it. There are some auto facilities in Pontiac that I think are model facilities. They do a pretty big business, move a lot of cars through, have not had a lot of cars stored there. There are some other facilities in Pontiac that are atrocious.
Yeah.
I think with our code enforcement people being buffed up and the conversations that we're having with you today, I think that says that we're going to be working with those other auto facilities that are not the model. The fact that you're here, that you're in conversations with us after finding out that, yeah, you needed to have these permits, that does say something. So I'm inclined to say yes to the special exception permit, and then we'll discuss further under new business, the preliminary site plan and what changes we should make. Also, you're already in business. That's the other thing. You're already going, you've already made some investment.
I'm willing to, whatever I have to do
Okay,
to, make everybody happy.
okay,
Definitely.
great, great. You're in a great location, being on Walton.
Yeah.
Across from the Burger King there.
Yeah.
And some other facilities.
I'm praying that the Burger King stays open because that's a good source of advertisement for us.
Yeah, and just quite a few cars, as we saw in the previous.
Yeah, that's not, I don't own a boat. So
Okay, you don't
believe
own
me,
a
that
boat.
ain't my stuff.
But the previous applicant
Yeah,
there
I
at the
know.
corner of Walton and Giddings, there
Normally
was a
we-
traffic count done.
Yeah.
And I think we were looking at, what, 34,000 cars? What was that, the volume that was noted on our, 40,000 cars, was that per week?
Per day.
Per day, per day. So quite a bit of traffic coming through that area.
Right.
Yeah,
Is that what it is, 40,000 a day?
I think that,
That's what that was. Do you remember, Corey? Off-
Sorry, not off the top of my head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
31,000 on Walton, 3,000 on Gidding.
was that per day?
Yeah.
Per day,
believe so.
wow.
I'm excited about that.
Yes, yes. So that's another reason why we're
Yeah.
really sensitive to
No, I understand.
the business is facade, and hopefully we get all the other businesses there and they cooperate, and we have a real strong business community servicing those 31,000 cars going along Walton.
We basically have not had any problems, you know what I mean? Police over there or any type of, with the neighbors, they're all seem to be happy. I don't have a neighbor to the one side because that's electrical towers, and then the other side is the abandoned building across the street. So every time we make money, we try to put it into the building. We're slowly getting there, but it takes money to do it. Believe me, if I could put in another 80,000, it would look like that other gentleman's site. But I ain't been there for 49 years yet. I'm getting there, but
All right.
our other site in Sterling Heights looks great. If you guys go by it and look at it, it's perfect. But it took us, we've been there for 13 years. So,
That ends my comments.
Okay, very good. Question about this aerial, and I know this is from the past, but those are, I'm assuming, rods of steel?
yeah,
Are those still there?
no.
Okay. Good answer. I like that. For staff, the need to rezone this, let's play this out. If we had said no, then his business cannot function. He would need to leave his location. What happens?
You want me to
Or
answer?
goes to City Hall, City Council.
So to be clear, this isn't a rezoning, it's a special exception.
I'm sorry.
So you are the final body deciding. If you decide no, his recourse would be to appeal your decision to the ZBA. And from there, he could take it up the courts.
But there'd be a 180-day period that this would not be able to be reapplied by the applicant or anyone else for a similar use within those 6 months.
Okay,
So-
all right. The other option we have three. We can postpone if there's something else that we need to have him bring back to us. Is that also accurate?
Yes.
Okay,
And really, it should be related to fact-finding if you want to postpone it, so.
okay, all right. Having seen, Sue and I live very close to that crazy place on Huron Street. I just looked at it again I think it was today when I drove by it. which is unfortunately not very attractive, even though they're busy. This site, to me, does not fall into that same level of lack of care that some of the other sites have in the city.
Thank you.
So, and I appreciate that you're working hard trying to move things forward there, and I know how it is when you're trying to start a second business, let alone having your first business. So thank you for expanding to our community. So I am inclined to approve this request with further details needed on that site plan review. So if there aren't any other questions, I would like a motion, please.
I make the motion to approve SCP, I was going to say September, SCP-23-1011 to allow for automotive services at 101 East Walton Boulevard. And can we say just based on the conditions of the presentation?
Okay.
And for the entire building?
Yeah.
Okay.
Entire site.
Entire site, I'm sorry.
Support.
So
North
you got
Cross,
support
okay,
from North
thank you.
Cross, correct. All right, roll call, please.
All right. Sinclair.
Yes to approve.
Henley.
Yes to approve.
Shepherd.
No.
McGinnis.
Yes to approve.
Duval.
Yes to approve.
North Cross.
Yes to approve.
Harlow.
Yes to approve.
All right. The motion passes for the special exception, 6-1.
All right. As we go down our agenda, is there any old business at the moment that you wanted to bring up?
We have no old business this evening.
Okay, very good. So now, under new business, we have our same applicant, Michael Finazzo. We're going to do a preliminary site plan for that same parcel at 101 East Walton. It's SPR 23-017.
All right, so since this is the same applicant, there's a lot of this that's repeat, so I'll move through that relatively quickly. But this is the site plan review portion that corresponds with the use you just permitted. So SPR 23-17 is a request for site plan approval to allow for automotive services. The building is existing, and the applicant is not proposing any alterations to the footprint. The reason the site plan has to come for you for approval is because every special exception must also be accompanied with an approved site plan. So you've already seen these slides, so I'm going to move pretty quickly and get to our analysis. So there are several items or several requirements in the zoning ordinance that are not currently being met. So I'm just going to run through those. I believe there are 5. The first is 2.509 automotive service. Automotive service facilities are required to maintain a masonry wall at least 5 feet in height wherever adjacent to residential. There appears to be a 6-foot privacy fence proposed or in place. The applicant will need to revise this to be a masonry wall. 4.305B, maneuvering lanes. Maneuvering lanes appear to be in compliance with the 20-foot width minimum. However, the site plan shall be revised to indicate the exact measurement for each maneuvering lane width. So essentially, the site plans that were provided did not indicate what the width of the maneuvering lanes are. 4.305F, striping requirements. The ordinance requires parking lots to be striped in white or yellow paint. The site plan should be revised to indicate how it will be painted. 4.405 buffer requirements. Commercial uses of this type are required to maintain a type B buffer when adjacent to residential. The plans call for a 6-foot privacy fence, which does not meet the requirements of a type B buffer. The site plans will need to be revised to indicate a masonry wall no shorter than 5 feet will be placed along the perimeter of the property where adjacent to residences. 4.406B, parking lots. The zoning ordinance requires a 10-foot landscape buffer where adjacent to residential. However, for this requirement, the Planning Commission has the authority to waive the requirement. Due to the lack of the space in the rear yard and the need for a cross-access drive in the rear of the property, staff is recommending the Planning Commission waive this requirement because there's also then the requirement of the 5-foot masonry wall. 4.706, hazardous substances. For this requirement, since they are an automotive service facility, they're required to provide more information on how they're going to handle their hazardous materials. So please provide a detailed plan for hazardous material management. The zoning ordinance requires automotive services provide details on their proposed spill prevention and response program, oil, water separators, hydronomic separators, or water quality inserts for inlets or equipment. There does not appear to be anything in the application addressing the issue of hazardous materials. So that's that as far as non-compliance with the zoning ordinance. Really, the major thing is that rear yard buffer, how the Planning Commission wants to handle that with the adjacent residences. In terms of standards of approval, there are 5 standards by which you should make your decision. In our analysis for each standard, standard 1, circulation, we found that the site would appear to be sufficient for traffic and pedestrian circulation. Standard 2, buildings, the existing building would not appear to present any adverse impacts on adjacent properties. Natural features, there are no natural features on site in need of preservation. Site layout and screening, the plans should be revised to provide that masonry wall. And lastly, compliance with the zoning ordinance. The following information needs to be added to the site plans before staff can verify compliance with the zoning ordinance. That would be the dimension of the maneuvering lanes, the color of the parking lot striping, the pre-treatment plan for stormwater runoff. And then furthermore, the following changes need to be made to the site plan. A 5-foot minimum masonry wall must be added wherever the property is adjacent to residences or residential zones. And then if the Planning Commission determines that you would like to require that 10-foot buffer, that would be another thing that would have to be changed on the site plan. So with that, staff is recommending approval with 8 conditions. The first condition, the nonconformities identified in the staff report will not be altered, extended, or enlarged. 2, a 5-foot masonry wall will be provided where adjacent to residential. 3, the required 10-foot rear yard buffer is waived. 4, a hazardous materials management plan will be provided to the city. 5, the site plans will be revised to include all the informational items identified in the staff report, the dimensions of maneuvering lanes, parking lot striping, and the pretreatment plan. 6, the applicant will need to provide or comply with any conditions of the approval for the associated special exception permit. 7, vehicles may not block the gate along Price Street, my bad. And 8, the other use of the site, which appears to be a welding shop, must receive the proper city approvals or cease operations. With that, here is a sample motion to approve. I do not have enough space to do your denial or postponement, but I think you are familiar with how the motions work. So with that, are there any questions for me?
Thank you.
8, it should be 8. Sorry.
Thank you for all that information. Bernita, any questions? No, I'm good. Thank you. Okay, Michael.
I appreciate the staff's thorough laying out of the appropriate conditions. I mean, special exceptions are unique scenarios. You know, they're kind of this special unicorn vessel for when it comes to land use and zoning. So we want to get it right to protect the residents, to protect you also, to protect your business, to protect the commercial corridor and keep our community moving forward and getting stronger and more presentable and more successful. I especially am concerned about the hazardous materials management, so I'm grateful that that's clocked there specifically, that that plan must be provided to the city per the unique challenges that come with the nature of this type of business. No further questions.
Very good, thank you. Tim?
That lean-to in back, is that going to stay there, or is that something, how do you get cars around from one side of the lot to the other?
Can you turn your microphone back
So
on,
that, so
please?
you can, that's not a, you can bypass through that, you don't have to go out to Walton to do that?
No, you don't have to, yeah. That's a big help.
Okay, cool. Why is it there? What does it do? I'm just curious why they built it in the first place.
I don't know.
Probably something to do with really exotic neon signs. They needed space outside, needed to test the neon debris. They're an amazing northern sign company.
And it does, I don't know if anyone else has this on their mind too, but you've already heard it from me, is the fence. So I don't know how to make that nicer and go
I'm going to
away,
try,
so.
believe me, I'm going to try, Tim, for you.
Yeah.
I mean it.
I appreciate it. I don't know, if you're going to have cameras, maybe you don't need a fence.
If you come by and see me and buy brakes from me, I'll definitely. I'll
I
definitely
drive
do
by it all the time, that's why I want to look at it.
I will. If you guys support us, I'll.
I want it, I mean, you know, look, it's just my opinion, but I want it to look nicer than it does right now. It does, and you've still got the steel on the side.
I might be able to put take the bob wire down, paint the fence black instead of silver, and that would make it look more richier. You know what I'm
I think when I
saying?
drive by something like that, I look at an area that must be a crime-ridden area. And I think we're on the page now that we're not.
I don't want that either.
Yeah, so I mean, that would be my suggestion. I don't know if it's part of what
I
we're
think
doing
once
or
the
not.
guy moves out from next door, we can put some of these cars inside the other side. If we do take that over, then
And when you stripe it and seal coat it, it's gonna.
It's gonna look great.
It's gonna look a lot nicer,
Yes.
and I don't, the paint didn't look horrible, other than maybe the front areas.
The building looks great.
You know, I remember Northern Signs there. It was always a nice building. So I want
Yes.
to make sure
The
that
landscaping, I just got to trim the trees. I got some things I got to do, but yeah, it's got good landscaping.
we all may not drive by in there and say something, but I'll come by and when I get my brakes.
Hey,
on,
I
I'll-
want you to come by and call me out on it. I'm good for
I
that.
will get my brakes on there. So thank you. That's
All right,
I-
thank you. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Sam, anything?
No, I think all the information I needed was discussed in the special exception permit.
Thank you. Sue?
Can we go back to the aerial photo, please? This looks like, what we're referencing is something that I think was from 2010. And it shows the dumpster on this would be the upper right-hand corner. Where's your intention of putting that now?
The dumpster's in front of that truck in the corner.
The red truck?
The red truck, yes.
Okay. I personally would like to see a 6-foot masonry wall in the back.
Well, there's an alley, too, that buffers the houses from us.
The residences?
Yes.
Is that on
There's
there?
an alley back there that we've surrendered to them. So
Okay.
there's nobody, that's kind of a big buffer there.
Okay. Is that not a condition of your approval? Is one of your conditions was a minimum 5-foot masonry wall?
Yeah, so that's an ordinance requirement specific for automotive services. It's not grandfathered in. He is required to meet that requirement because he's introducing this new use in which a 5-foot masonry wall is required for adjacent residences, even if there's an alley there.
Okay, thank you. No comments.
Thank you. Chris?
I have a question. It concerns condition number 8. The use of the site, which appears to be a welding shop, must receive the proper city approvals or cease operations. And would we be remiss if we were to change that to the welding shop will cease operations? Just shorten that? You're saying that welding shop is going to move out shortly?
Yeah.
Would you be amenable to give us some time frame in which that's going to happen? Because for me, having the additional space that welding shop would offer really says that, yeah, you can take cars of value that you're waiting for parts and
Yeah.
park them inside with great security, and you'd have the room.
Yeah, well,
But
right.
without it, I'm
Yep.
not too sure everything works right.
Well, right now, we're only certified for brakes and front ends, so we're not doing like the other shop we have, transmissions and all that, where we've got to wait 30 days. Our turnaround time on those cars are a day.
Yeah.
So it's not like anything's going to be sitting there. Those other vehicles, if they're sitting at all, it's either the employees' cars, every day, and they move at night. So that lot's going to be pretty much, cleared out. It's not going to be, we're not certified to do all the rest of that stuff yet.
Okay.
So we're trying to make it into a discount brake shop and 1-day service. That's what my goal is there. Is not to have, because at night in Sterling Heights, we have no cars sitting there. Once in a while, we'll get one because we have a transmission, like I said, and it's sitting in the lot, and then we get it in within a week and get it out of there. So turnaround time is maybe 2 weeks, but those, we'll take some photos 3 months from now. There won't be any cars in that lot on either side. And hopefully, see, the thing is, my partner that owns half the building, he's storing his stuff in that side. That's why I'm saying I'd love to do that.
Oh, he's a partner. The welding guy is a partner.
Well, yeah, he owns half the building.
Ah.
That's
okay.
why I'm saying he's building his building. I can show you pictures of his building, but is it going to be done in December for sure? I'm pretty sure it's going to be. He's bricking it now, but that's the plan, that he's going to leave there, and I'm in negotiations right now to buy him out.
May I add something as a point of order for this? Is the reason staff worded the condition that way is because when the building department reviews for occupancy and the inspections in accord with the fire department, really the building as a whole is going to be looked at and assessed. And it's possible, I can't speak for our building manager, but it's possible that he may not be able to receive approval if there's an illegal use that might be impacting this part of the building. So, having vacant areas is not an issue. Having incidental storage is not an issue. But just what staff has learned tonight and from our conversations with the applicant, there's definitely a concern that even if he's planning on moving out, he can do the necessary steps to seek approval for storage over there to get the necessary building approvals.
Okay.
So.
Good. Well, fine.
Yeah, we'll just bring him in here.
Yeah, because
That's all.
I know we're starting to ticket cars that are just sitting out on the street.
I'm good with that.
And I think it's 7 days.
Yeah.
Or something.
I'm all.
Or even 48 hours. Okay. And these are cars that are sitting on the street.
Right.
Now, I'm not sure about the storage, and I think Mr. Yandrick is going to go through that and clarify that. So
I spent $400,000 on that building. I plan on being here for a long time and making it nice. I'm here with you guys.
All right.
I'm all for Pontiac.
I think we're all on
Okay.
the same page.
Yep.
Good. I have no further questions.
Thank you, Chris. I am looking at the floor plan here. It's a really, it's a linear drawing that kind of broke apart when I printed it. It's a little bit hard to read everything. But the area where the gentleman is storing welding materials, it looks like there's a overhead door there,
Yes.
and then it's just an open space?
Yes.
Okay, so cars could potentially be parked in there. It would support
Yes.
cars?
Yep. It's
And-
all, it's just, yep.
Okay, all right, and then to the area,
There's 3 doors on my side and there's 1 bay door on his side, so it'd be easy to put cars in there.
okay.
And we could go through the back of it, drive around the building.
Yeah.
And put them right in if we had to.
Okay.
That's the plan.
There are the 3 bays there.
Yep.
Behind the bays, what would be to the east of the bays, is that all open space?
Yes.
There's no drywall that breaks that space up from the bays?
There's, it's open till, the building's separated in half.
Okay,
Yep.
but otherwise.
So the brake shop's on one half and then there's storage on the other.
Right,
Yeah.
okay. So just to be clear, there's that potential that cars can be parked inside this building?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay,
There's a door I could even open in the middle that separates.
oh, okay.
And I could drive right through the 3 doors with the hoist and drive right in
Okay,
to that area.
all right. Let's go back then to the items, the 8 items. By the way, you're off to a running start. This building is lovely. It's not that old. It's in good condition
Yes.
seemingly. So
Yes.
that oftentimes we have people that are bringing us, coming with a building that really needs a lot of attention before they can move.
No, the building went through the team inspection pretty good.
Okay,
We just got done finishing everything.
okay. Good. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
So I think probably, once we make our determination, then ultimately we look to staff, we look to the rest of the departments within the city to make sure that all these items are adhered to.
Correct.
Okay.
And a lot of this would be part of a lot of this would be part of a final site plan approval as well.
Okay. Does that come back to us at all?
It does not unless planning commission chooses, but, in the last 6 months, staff has been really reviewing the final site plan in coordination with the city engineer and the fire department and Water Resource Commission.
Okay.
And if I may add, sorry.
Please, go ahead.
If it is the will of the commission that this come back to you for final site plan approval, that should be a condition of your preliminary site plan approval.
Okay.
So you should state that.
I think that my fellow commissioners would probably like to see this one more time because we've had so much conversation about this tonight. It's not just cutting a branch off of a tree because it's hanging too low. So I think that it would be nice to see this one more time. Hopefully my fellow commissioners agree. And I'm ready for a motion, and if that is something that someone feels is important, please add that to the motion.
Let's get this pulled up here.
Then,
I move to approve the requested site plan for an automobile service facility at 101 Walton Boulevard based on the findings of fact identified in the staff report with the 8 conditions outlined in the staff report, plus the added condition that the final site plans come before the Planning Commission.
Support.
So we have Sue Sinclair supporting. You are welcome. Roll call, please.
Duval?
Yes to approve.
McGinnis?
Yes to approve.
Shepherd?
Yes to approve.
Harlow?
Yes to approve.
Northcross?
yes to approve.
Sinclair?
Yes to approve.
Henley?
Yes to approve.
The motion passes 7-0.
It
Congratulations.
was nice meeting everybody.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I won't let you down.
Thank you. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
All right, the next item we have is an informational session. It's ZMA 23-011 for A Corp Services LLC, a zoning map amendment for 729 Linda Vista Drive, which is the old Mark Twain School.
So I'm going to just set the table here for the applicants. Informational sessions really are for opportunities for Planning Commission to understand proposals, to provide feedback for the applicant, and to really the applicant to ask questions of Planning Commission. This is for a rezoning. This first one is for a rezoning, and we don't do this for all rezonings, but this is an unusual, more in-depth discussion that we thought that would be helpful. Actually, both informational sessions tonight are, and so. Really, this is at 729 Linda Vista Drive. I apologize, the applicant is incorrect. This is, A Corp is the applicant, but there's also some other names involved, including Alture, which is hoping to make a light manufacturing facility at the former Mark Twain School at 729 Linda Vista Drive. The zoning district is proposed to be changed from R1 to C3, and the site is 9.5 acres. The zoning map here just shows this area. This is Perry Street, going north and diagonal here. This is Joslin, and really, while Joslin does go down to University or close to University, Joslin actually dead ends right here where the dot is. And so if you're coming south of Joslin, south of Perry, you actually need to turn into the neighborhood here. The right-of-way is still there, but it is actually closed off to the public. Now, not for discussions of this rezoning, but there's a consideration that in the future they may vacate this as part of this property, as part of the right-of-way. An initial thought from the city is we would be okay with this, but we would let that formal process take place after this rezoning was hypothetically approved. I do want to talk about the adjacent zoning districts. So really, this is R1, and there's been a theme this year about schools trying to be repurposed and a lot of them being closed. There is commercial properties to the north along Perry. Most of them are C1. There is a C3 property right here. So I did want to just show a few pictures as you're entering the neighborhood. This is the look that you would have at Linda Vista Drive, just showing the single-story building, elementary school building that was there. And then this is a picture from the south side, and really the south side of the building, the property for that matter, there's a lot of undulation, a lot of slope, and so while you can see the building, it's not a direct view line. This is not flat, and when you go due south of this building to the left, there's actually a significant grade difference, like something like 30, 40 feet. So some of the future uses on this property, no matter what it is, may not even be seen by the properties of the south. So I just wanted to kind of set the table on that. They have a presentation, but I just wanted to overview. This is C3 corridor commercials proposed for the following reason. Joslin is the start of a commercial corridor to the north. We would not be proposing the applicant would not be proposing C3 if this was not on a thoroughfare of the city. So while Joslin is not as traveled as it is farther to the north, this really is thought to be an extension. Light manufacturing requires a special exception permit in the C3 zoning district. So that means the Planning Commission would get an additional review with this. The school has been vacant for 10 or plus years. It's in poor condition, and the vandalism and trash are considerable. The applicant has been cleaning up the site to the best of their ability. And C3 is an unusual rezoning request for this, for a former school next to a neighborhood. The applicant is hoping to add jobs, provide training, and wants the use to be integrated into the neighborhood. I will let them make the presentation this evening. While conditions are not volunteered at this time, staff has had conversations about conditions, and we really encourage that because in a C3 zoning district, it allows for bars and hotels and retail stores up to 75,000 square feet. I don't think that's the long-term intention of this site, and I think we're going to work on crafting the correct conditions, and I hope that we have that before the public hearing. So I don't have any further analysis from myself or the other review agencies. That is currently under review at the moment, but we hope to have that in a staff report for next month. So the applicant has a presentation. I'm going to upload it. There are 22 slides, but we've talked, the goal for them is about 8 minutes. Some of them, they're going to be flying through some pictures really quickly, but then it's conversations really between the applicant and Planning Commission, and staff is here if you have any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. If you could please state your name and address for the record.
My name is Kathy Abad. My address is 315 Indusco Court, currently in Troy, Michigan. Which one do I do?
On the right is to go forward. On the left is to go back.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
So I have, like Mark said, I have 22 slides. Sorry. I will go through them very quickly. I started in economic development with Oakland County. I worked with Oakland County Economic Development for about 6 years. My territory was Pontiac. I saw multiple businesses start and fail, and I saw multiple entrepreneurs who wouldn't even look at it because Pontiac had a reputation. So when the Ultra CDC Commission came and said, Community Development Corporation came and said, what area in the county is one that we can help? And I immediately said Pontiac. And so I'm here with my A-team. I have Michelle D'Souza from UBT. Thank you. I have Steve Todeverdo from UV Sheltron. He's the Chief Technical Officer. I have Alex Reuter from Meyer & Meyer. He's our attorney. And I'm going to talk about what we want to do. It's a little bit confusing, so stay with me. And I do have a packet of information for you. So, during our fact-finding, when we decided what we wanted to do, Alture said, okay, we're going to do a community development corporation. Initially, we were going to do training. And then we discovered that there's a lot of training in Pontiac. So we started talking to locals. We talked to residents. We talked to schools. We talked to Oakland County. We met with Jennifer Llewellyn from Michigan Works. And basically what it came down to is what Pontiac needs the most to revitalize the city is jobs. So we thought we would partner with UBT and Sheltron, and we would provide training and mentoring and wraparound services for local underserved people in the community, and then we would hire them. So we've put together a very comprehensive plan, and it's exciting, and I hope we can convince you that it's a good deal. So our collaborative, we have A Corp, which Michelle D'Souza owns. She is leasing the building once we get it up to Alture and CDC, Alture CDC and Sheltron. And then UBT is a manufacturing company, and Adden is a construction company. So while we are going to hire people for Sheltron, which I'll explain in a minute, we are also looking for people for UBT and for Adden services. So when people go through the program that we're doing and we train them on the job training, we're going to hire them, which is exciting for us. This is what, Mark, thank you for the prelim, but this is what the building looks like on the inside. In the packet, there's a ton of pictures that we took. I'm going to skip over a lot of it because I'm giving it to you in the packet. But basically, it's turned into a bit of a garbage dump. Mr. Carrington, the Councilman Carrington, he's wonderful. He's very supportive of us. But I do get a call from him about once a week saying,
Pass it up.
about once a week saying, come get this garbage out of here, you're going to get a ticket. So we have been out there multiple times cleaning up, and we know that there's a couple times we've had to go into the building and ask people to leave. So it could be dangerous. These are some of the pictures that we took initially. The building is in horrible shape. We cannot salvage it. We thought we could, but after we did our preliminary site plan and had our brownfield committee go look at it, it's not salvageable. We have to tear it down. So this is the A-Corp building project overview, and there's more slides that go with this. Basically, this is the topographical look, and you can see right now there are a ton of trees that we want to put as buffers. The building itself is the same square footage as the existing school, 50,000 square feet. That building will house will house Ultra CDC members, and it will also house Sheltron Manufacturing. This is the topographical that Mark alluded to, that the back of the building facing Gage Street is it's very high, about, what did you say, Mark, about 40 feet? Yeah, so we're not gonna touch that. We're gonna leave that as green space. We are going to put trees all around for buffer, again, for the residents. This is what we hope the building will look like when we're done. And I'm going to zip through these really quickly. We are absolutely wanting to make this a beautiful space for the neighborhood. We have talked with, as I mentioned, Mr. Carrington, we had an informational session with the community, and they were all in favor of what we're trying to do here. We have met with legislators, Representative Brenda Carter and Senator Jeremy Moss, the mayor. Everybody is in favor of what we're trying to do. And I'll get into more about that. That's the rear of the building facing Gage, but the elevation is so high in the back area that they won't even see it. This is the bay door area, and this is significant because what we're going to do is, as Mark mentioned, we're going to open that portion of Jocelyn Avenue only to the bay door. And the reason for that is we don't want trucks going through the neighborhood. We want them to come off Perry Street and go right into our facility. This is the existing site plan, and it's kind of hard to see, but the arrows show where Jocelyn where it is right now and where we want to reopen it. This is it's not an actual to scale footprint of the building, but as you can see, there are trees all around it. There's enough of a buffer between the houses on either side. There's also, when we open that area up for Jocelyn, that will allow the fire department 360 access to the building. Again, this is a topographical view. We have a little section in the corner that we're thinking of a nice gazebo or something for the employees to have lunch with. The front of the building, the smaller area would be our offices. The back would all be manufacturing. Another view of the building with the parking. Another view, beautiful, we love it, gorgeous. Okay, this is what we're gonna build. So we are going to partner with Sheltron and UBT, and Ultra CDC is going to help mentor employees. But basically, we're going to build, and we are building, electric vehicle charging stations. Portable, they are configurable. We are currently selling them to the U.S. Army. We have an order right now that we're fulfilling for 112 of these stations across the country for 26 different Army bases. And that's just one. Our biggest, or UBT's biggest customer and Sheltron's biggest customer is the Department of Defense. So once you get a contract, you got to keep going. So right now, our facility at UBT they're kind enough to share with us, we have boost hubs all over the place. We just don't have the room. Our entire parking lot is filled with boost hubs. So we really need a facility to build and store these. This is what they look like on the inside. But one of the things I do want to say is with electric vehicle charging stations, there are batteries. We have decided not to store the batteries on site because we don't want to put any risk with the neighborhood. So what we're going to do is ship them with the boost hub. They will drop ship directly to the site and we'll install it on site. There will be no batteries inside. And so that was pretty fast, Mark, huh? So So our request is to change zoning from residential to commercial. I want to talk a little bit about some of the wraparound services that we want to provide. We currently initially started, we would do 10 to 12 jobs. We have 20 people right now building boost hubs. And we are looking to bring the underserved, the unemployable people, bring them, train them, not just in jobs, but in life skills, in mentoring, in addiction counseling, in all of that. And it's not part of what you guys are looking at specifically, but that's where our heart is. That's Alcher. We have also given out multiple grants to people that are struggling with financial, with rent, with groceries, we're working with multiple people to help them better their lives. And some of those wraparound services would extend to their families. This site is walkable for many of the people that we want to employ. This site will provide jobs in an industry that is rapidly deployable. It's not going away. It's only going to get bigger and bigger and bigger as more electric vehicles, and everybody reads about electrical vehicles, and all of the major car companies they have this mandate they're going to go electric by a certain amount of time. We feel that we're at the forefront of this, and that the people that we do train that go through this program will have a career, not just a job. They'll learn in an industry that is up and coming. We do not provide certification or any training. This is all strictly on-the-job training, and we intend to employ these people. So that's what we're asking for.
And Kathy, thank you for the presentation. I want to add one thing for Planning Commission and the public. At no point is Joslyn intended to be opened up where it is closed, because we did hear from the neighbors as part of Kathy's open house at one of our senior centers. So really, while they may open something up as an entrance for the truck vehicles, nothing is opening up for the community that we would be changing traffic patterns for that. So that is it.
Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. Alex Ruder, attorney from Myers & Myers, which is located in Howell off of 915 North Michigan Avenue. I live in Brighton personally, but I enjoy being out in Pontiac. I do quite a bit of work out here, and I actually do quite a bit of municipal work and represent a few municipalities myself. I wanted to introduce myself tonight because I think if there's going to be conditions discussed, I will probably be the one drafting those and presenting them either to Mark or to the appropriate person. And if you guys have questions for me from a legal standpoint about those conditions, I wanted to at least allow you guys to hear my voice and let you know that I'm receptive to any questions that you have.
Thank you. Does anybody else want to come up and add anything on your presentation? All good. Thank you, Kathy, for a tremendous amount of information. Let's see if we can do it faster. We'll get the stopwatch going. We'll repeat it all. I have a couple of quick questions. First of all, when the information was up on the screen, it said Leaf Co Ventures. What is Leaf Co Ventures?
That was a mistake on my part. So they are not the applicant for
Okay,
this. That was another application.
All right.
So
I know
thank
there's
you.
a lot of names that are involved here, and I didn't know how that tied in. What is the funding mechanism for this project?
The funding mechanism are orders from the government, and we also have some collaborative partners that are helping us with this.
Okay, so is funding all in place already?
Yes.
And you own the school at this time?
Yes.
Okay. As you're talking about these chargers and it's for government use, is the intent or the anticipation that this product that you're building going to be compatible with the typical car that the public drives?
Yes. So when I mentioned earlier that these boost hubs are configurable, we are charger agnostic. That means we could put any charger from EVCO or ChargePoint or anything. We can put up to 6 charging stations on one unit, on double-sided. So while our current customer is the DOD, we also plan to do commercial apartment buildings, corridors. We're working right now with the state of Michigan on some of the rest stops in the Upper Peninsula. The beauty of these units is that not only are they configurable, we also have solar panel options for out west, so if you're off, you can be off-grid. You can also have an LED sign on some of the, I put a flyer in your packet, so it could be a revenue sharing opportunity. We also, our biggest thing for the city of Pontiac is we can put a station and make it available for the city for Dream Cruise or whatever festivals are coming up. And if the infrastructure is not in place for Pontiac, this is the answer.
So these are portable stations? You can move them around?
Yep.
They don't need to be...
With a big high-low.
So you don't need to plug into the grid in order to operate it? It's working off of batteries?
You don't have to. As I mentioned, these are options. So right now, the military has gone with the solar option. So, but you can plug into the grid, and you can, especially in the state of Michigan, you're probably going to want to do that, at least during the winter when there's no sunlight.
And
ever.
This company's been in existence for how long now?
So when you say this company.
I know there's a lot of companies involved here. The part that's building these chargers.
Sheltron was developed actually during the pandemic. We initially, Michelle, we spun it off. Michelle is amazing entrepreneur, frickin' fearless. But we did not lay off one employee at UBT. Instead, we kind of parlayed. We created Sheltron, and initially we did disinfection products, UV disinfection products, and we sold a ton of them. And then we decided we were doing so well with that, we've always got an eye on the future, so that's what we started with the Boost Hubs, charging stations. So the business has actually been in existence for about 3 years.
And they're based where?
Right now we're in Troy, jammed up in UBT's back parking, and we actually had to move one of the wiring divisions out to another building because we just don't have the space.
Okay. And this building, is it a quiet manufacturing process? Is there sound that goes with it?
There is
that the
some
neighbors will hear?
sound, clearly. It's a manufacturing facility. But with the buffers and the trees, we don't anticipate that it's going to be a problem with the community.
Okay. Is this a private company or is it?
Private.
Okay. All right, those are my initial quick questions. I'm going to bring Vernita in. Any questions?
When do you anticipate having this full-blown built and ready for operation?
We would like to have it done already, but realistically, probably within 18 months, I would think, if we
18
get
months.
approval. Mhm.
Also, how many employees do you plan to have at full capacity?
You know, initially, we said we would do between 10 and 12, but right now we have 20, and we're screaming for help.
Okay. So what's your anticipation?
40
Okay.
minimum,
And you want to do all of this in Pontiac? Are you
all of
looking
it in
at?
Pontiac.
Okay. And are you looking to hire more from
There's
Pontiac?
in your packet, there's a flyer that says we are hiring.
Okay.
So if you know anybody that's looking for a job, we're looking.
What's your pay scale?
It depends on this. It depends on the experience. We are market ready. We are comparative. We have senior electricians. We have journeyman electricians. We have regular laborers. It is definitely compatible. I think we're starting around $16 to $18 an hour. We have full benefits, including 401k, flexible hours. I mean, we want people to stay with us.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I could go on and on.
We had
okay.
talked about this, but do you have anticipated hours? Would this be one shift? Would you consider two shifts?
We would
as part-
absolutely consider 2 shifts. Wouldn't
Okay.
that be a great problem to have? But not for now. Now is 1 shift.
I'm good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Michael, go ahead.
Thank you very much for pursuing this initiative, but most importantly, thank you for pursuing it in Pontiac, Michigan. This is the neighborhood where my parents live, and they're on Court Street. And this is the school where I first voted 21 years ago for myself. And at 18 years of age. No, but learned a lot. And so they're still in that neighborhood, and I'm very often in touch with my city council colleague, the Honorable William A. Carrington, who represents, not only calls this neighborhood home,
Yes.
but has represented it on the city council, and then even before that, leading a neighborhood organization that was advocating for,
Yes, we care.
with previous ownership, and,
Yep.
and I want to make that fully clear, with prior owners, ensuring that it was clear of debris. It's a very serious dumping target in our community, one of the most pervasive dumping problems. And that's in part due to its secluded nature, somewhat cloistered off, which lends to the prospect of this future use with this redevelopment, with this rezoning, because it is not like many of our the other neighborhood schools, they're in the heart of a neighborhood. They are the center or the hub, and so much of our residential area is really tightly compact and close to that. This is an outlier. This is different. It's very close to this corridor and thoroughfare, and as your proposal indicates, you can leverage that. You can work with that to make sure that it is not deteriorating or negatively impacting the integrity of the neighborhood. So Council Pro Tem Carrington has been very strong in wanting to see this site reimagined, resolved, and it is a priority for the city of Pontiac, for all residents in all corners of the city. This is not the only former institution, it's not the only vacant school that we are contending with, but it's one that I think has special challenges because it is tucked away, it is secluded, that it's harder to leverage that into adaptive reuse. I'm very sad to hear that the structure can't be saved, just from, recycling for, adaptive reuse from historical perspective from the community. It was opened in the 1950s and was a place where many community members, they went to school, their family members went to school, they worked, they were educators. When I was at Oakland University and was in the AmeriCorps program, I even worked in the Mark Twain School. Wow. It's sad that it got to that point, but setting that emotional, that loss aside, I don't want to hold on for false hope and allow that neighborhood to suffer even further, to allow that structure to continue draw down on value for the property owners and residents there, to negatively mar the quality of life for the residents in that area. And this is an unusual approach, but it's also an exciting approach.
Yes.
And what we'll be looking for, I'm certain this planning commission will be, as much as possible, how can we screen, protect, buffer, and build in those protections and safeguards for the current residents, of which there are many homeowners. There are many people, that neighborhood was the first in the city that allowed new construction that was open to homeowners of all races. And so it was an early racially integrated neighborhood, not only in our great city, but also in the entire state of Michigan. And there are many of those early homeowners, often of them with ties to the automotive industry and General Motors, that still live there, that either they are the first generation of the homes or their family members, and they deserve to have an intact, harmonious, stable, and enjoyable neighborhood. And this is a very big impediment to that. And depending on where you are in the neighborhood, another impediment is the site of the Glenwood Plaza that's just over the ridge. But we'll leave that for another
looked
day.
at that.
Let's tackle the big kahunas that we can. That's right. So I'm sorry to go so long. I just know that this is this would be transformational for this neighborhood.
Absolutely.
And if done right. And it sounds like, by all indicators, you're looking to do it right and to do it well. Yes. And so on behalf of my family and on behalf of all the residents of this neighborhood, thank you. But on behalf of all 61,000 residents, thank you, because it can be a model. It could be, literally it could be a relationship that can grow as you have a constellation of companies, a constellation of operations. Pontiac wants to be the place where you find it very receptive for your growth. And as a side note, Ms. D'Souza, we crossed paths years ago. I used to work for Congresswoman Brenda Lawrence, and I know you often.
I saw your picture, and I'm like, he was a young chap.
Yeah.
Not anymore.
And so, yes, your business acumen and your strong reputation precedes you, and I'm really grateful that there are ventures in Pontiac that have caught your attention with your collaborative initiatives here. So. Apologies for going long. This is something that I'm very eager to see us, of course, provide our due diligence, but also to demonstrate that we can be creative and we can be innovative with how we make these opportunities work for the neighborhood, for the entire city, because the status quo ain't cutting it. The current status of that site, the current status of many of our neighborhoods that have had to deal with these eyesores, these targets for vandals, for dumping, for just eyesores. I look forward to this neighborhood being relieved of that burden, let alone all the net positives.
Tim, he's gonna love it. We love trees, we love, it is gonna be really pretty.
It
We're
is.
not gonna, wait, we wanna do the outside first, and Kathy had many meetings with the residents.
Yes, we've met with the residents multiple
We
times.
wanna be able to hire people locally first, so that they can walk to work, and that was the plan. So
Yep.
We're gonna keep up in this process.
Yeah, go right ahead. Okay.
I'm just glad that I heard this part, because I know the next one is exciting too for the guys who I haven't heard, but thank you.
Thank
Do
you.
you want to leave now? All right, you're welcome, thank you. All right, go ahead, Tim.
Obviously, it's a great plan. I love seeing it. Mike said just about everything. I mean, we're all excited to see something like this. So you answered a lot of the questions. I think that I'm surprised, I guess the residents wouldn't be here yet because we haven't really put it out there, but I was very impressed with the street. You know, there's some beautiful houses there, so.
Yes.
I'm sure they'll be back, so.
Yeah.
Great what you're doing. Why Pontiac? What, is it did you get more funding because of Pontiac?
No,
Was that
no.
property values? Because that's a lot. That's a
No,
big project,
no,
right? So
no, we,
I do live just off of Woodward,
you do?
a full disclosure.
Okay.
yeah.
Good. Well, we're glad you picked Pontiac. I mean,
Yes.
as I say, why Pontiac? I mean, everyone asks me the same thing. I'm here. I'm all in.
Well, as I
So it's
mentioned,
great.
when I worked for the county, Pontiac was my territory, and I was so frustrated so many times when I would try to have people come in and start a business, and they didn't want anything to do with it, wouldn't even consider it, and not even to go to look at anything. So, and I was there when the Strand Theater was going up. I was there when those downtown buildings are absolutely stunning, but nobody's doing anything with them. So, and we talk about the loop, we talk about all that stuff, I'm going to get sidetracked, but ultimately, I have a love of rebuilding this city, and Michelle fortunately shares that as well.
You're preaching to the choir, and I think one of the reasons I ask why Pontiac for you guys is how do we get the other people to come in and do the same thing that you're doing?
Well, I promised the
So-
mayor that I'll knock on everyone's door.
Right, right.
From Long Lake onwards.
Good.
Yeah, Michelle,
Give us
could,
some money for the city of Pontiac.
could you go up to the microphone and state your name and address for the record so everyone at home can hear what you're saying, because this is important.
Michelle D'Souza, is this on? Michelle D'Souza, and I live in 1880 East Valley Road, Bloomfield Hills. I did promise the mayor that I would knock on every door and, do what was the guy's name who did Detroit pretty good, or he bought a lot of land? He owns a...
Dan Gilbert?
Dan Gilbert, yeah. Yeah, so his...
You're going to do a Dan Gilbert for us?
So I said, we'll do a group Dan Gilbert and see how we can, help. And you've got a great planning guy. He's very careful. He wants to make sure that the residents are protected. And he didn't pay me a dime to say that, But so he's been working with us, and we've been trying to get this project off the ground. We were hoping to build what we have in orders for out here, but I didn't know how long the process takes in terms of, approvals and things like that. So we've got the funding, we've got the budget approved. We're just waiting to get the conversion so that we can start manufacturing. And just in terms of how old the manufacturing is, UBT was started in 1997. So the EV charging station was new, but that's primarily because we do a lot of investments and analysis, and we could just see how far the EV charging stations are going to go. I mean, I drive a Tesla, and we also have an office in Oahu in Hawaii, and everyone there uses solar panels for everything. And in Michigan, you would drive, we have a little cottage in Caseville, and I tried, and every charging station wasn't working. So we cut off the electricity, cut off everything in the car, no music, no heat. In winter, you come back, finally had to get the car towed. So I came back, Steve's our CTO, and I'm like, Steve, come on, man, we got to come up with some solution. So this is great, the solar panels, the sun heats it up, there's batteries inside, it stores it, so even if there's no sun, we'll still have energy. And, we decided to put a little tire charging, so if your tire is down, you can just fill the air in on one corner of this. So we're trying. Someone else said, can you put a vending machine in? We said, we'll try. We'll look and see what else we can and cannot do, so... But yeah, we're always building new things, and we can't wait to get this property redeveloped and And Mr. Carrington doesn't call us to say, can you pull up that old couch again, and, what have you. But thank you. We're really excited.
Great. Thank you for that additional information.
Yeah, thank you. I don't have anything else. I think hopefully you'll see the process is smooth and, and it'll move faster than you might normally see. So that's what we really want to see. So thank you. Good luck.
Thank you.
Sam, anything?
Yes, I may have misunderstood, but if you could answer for this for me again, do you have any goals as to the percentage of your employees being Pontiac residents?
Ideally, we are looking at 75 to 80%.
Okay. Second question, so this is essentially going to be a manufacturing use in a sea of residential?
Yes.
Which comes with children.
Yes.
Pets, families, and I see that from the site plan, a majority of the site will be unlandscaped green space, more situated in the rear of the building. Do you have any plans to develop any community spaces, such as parks or places where people in the nearby neighborhoods can go to?
We would be open to that. However, the cost to redevelop that because of the elevation differences could be prohibitive. But we're open to anything at this point. We definitely want to help the community. And Mr. Carrington and I have talked a long time about what we can do on the back end of the community. And right now, frankly, leaving it as green space is a nice buffer. So
The site won't be secured?
yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sue?
You answered a couple key questions I had, and you made a couple points that I really appreciated. The fact that the batteries are being drop shipped.
Yes.
And I appreciate the fact that you're so invested in hiring Pontiac residents as employees. My concerns would be respecting the residences around there. I work in a design and manufacturing facility for the automotive industry, and we are right adjacent to residential, and I know that our truck traffic, when we're shipping out conveyor parts and steel, is evasive to the neighborhood. I know you've got that one entrance. Just curious, what kind of trucks do you use to ship these out on?
So we have, I think they're called lowboy trailers, Steve, correct?
I'm familiar with
Yeah.
them.
And we can put 2 units on a lowboy, and then they're shipped out. We also have really strong high-lows that we're going to need for the facility. But when we ship them out, it's not every single day. Well, we hope it will be, but right now it's not. So what we try to do is build up enough to complete the order, and then we'll get 3 or 4 trucks in and we'll ship.
You've got a unique site to deal with.
Yes.
With the drop in the elevation, I think that honestly helps you, in my opinion, as far as site development and respect to the residences. Just want to review your packet more and see, hear the public comments. But so far, it looks very positive, in my opinion.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Thank you. We've had multiple community sessions, and as Michelle mentioned, we've walked the perimeter and with a little "here we come" and a little box of candy, and so we've done a lot to get to know the residents and have them. I think they're excited too.
All right. Chris, please.
I am really happy to hear this. Questions? The fabrication that you'll be doing on site, is that metal fabrication,
Yes.
bending? Most of it will be like sheet. I'm just wondering about the noise. We're not going to, C3, that wouldn't allow you to have any big presses or anything.
Correct, yeah. So we don't manufacture the metal. So really, when you were asking about the noise, it's primarily electric drills, and so you're not going to see much.
Okay. And in your walkthrough of the building, you picked up the asbestos and no other items that are there.
Yeah. We really wanted to save the building, just so you know. Believe me, we tried. It's got a beautiful basketball court. It's got a beautiful piano. If anybody wants a piano, it's beautiful. And it's got some. We could as soon as we're ready and it's approved, we could. If anyone in the city wants to take anything, they could. It's got a lot of the little chairs and tables, and it's got a bunch
in the
of.
pictures that we
Yeah.
see. We actually, Steve and I
got a-
walked through and we were
Mhm.
looking at the gymnasium floor. We thought maybe we could keep that section of the building. And the floor goes like this because the ceiling had caved in. So unfortunately, we can't. There's too much mold and, as you mentioned, asbestos and.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I'm really, really happy to hear that the residents have been engaged. My wife was the last principal at Mark Twain. And as the building closed, I was also on the school board at that time, we had proposed an alternate use for the building. And at that time, the residents, in essence, the use was something with the Women's Survival Center and retraining, manufacturing. This is like a long time ago. 15 years ago, probably. But the residents at that time were saying that if we couldn't have it as a school, we don't want it at all. And we said, oh my goodness, don't do that. But one of the issues with a vacant building is that it's vacant and people come in. I mean, it's like a vacuum. It just sucks people into it and they do all types of things. So, yes, I think once you get going, a lot of the dumping, the trash, and the other things will go away. And if the site plans and other things are amenable to the general public, this will be a great reuse of that land. Just as an aside, you'll see most of the buildings in Pontiac that were associated with the school district have very large parcels of land associated with them. It's all zone R1, but these are large parcels of lands that have been associated with them. And often the stumbling block is, once the building is vacant, is the building. You know, the land is there. It could be a number of uses, but I'm glad that you have found an alternative use for this building that's agreeable with the public. So go for it, go ahead, and I hope to see your full proposal shortly.
Thank you. And a suggestion for neighborhood engagement could be Toboggan Hill, since you've already got that elevation back there.
It does have a beautiful elevation,
Yeah,
but
yeah, that's a thought.
So that's why we didn't want to destroy it. We wanted to make sure we, regrass it and things like that, and beautify it.
Very good. Well, I don't have any other questions. Do you have something else, Michael?
Since it was mentioned that there are a lot of content still in the school, in one of my many roles, I am executive director of Oakland County's Historical Society.
Yes, that's
and
right.
we would be, delighted to be able to assess and take stock of if there's any ephemera or artifacts or items that would be able to, scan or find a good home for it. I just wanted to offer that at no charge, of course. That
You're
we-
welcome to it.
Yeah,
Put
I
your
think we
mask on and
yeah.
come on out.
We should donate the grand piano. It is beautiful.
It is beautiful.
I did play a tune or two on it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
Well, I don't really have room for that at the Historical Society, but I salute that. I did want to ask, since it's just under 10 acres, correct, at the
Yes.
site? And I really appreciate what Trustee Emeritus Northcross shared with his past tenure at the school board. How many acres or what square feet is the existing footprint of the school? right now?
50,000,
And what would be your,
50,000.
so it's almost like a like for like in terms of the
Exactly.
footprint, so to speak, even if it's not exactly
Yep.
laid out the same.
Correct.
And when you did that overlay, and if you're able to go back to that slide, I don't know if, I'm sorry.
They might-
It had the overlay
they
kind
have
of
it there.
showing where the aerial, right there.
Yep.
So you could see that there's almost like that sprawling, that's just the nature of the schools from the late 1950s, that era
Right.
of elementary schools that Pontiac built. So it won't be as close in some portions to the residential. That white box, the white box doesn't show the perimeter of your new building. It actually goes beyond that, right? That I'm looking at the black outline within the white box, including with the northern jutting portion that will be offices or,
Yes.
Okay.
And to your point, we actually, if you can see, the school is kind of on a rotated. We decided that we would make the building less rotated, and so it's further away from the street.
right? Thank you. Yes,
Okay,
I just
so-
wanted to orient myself in terms of the comparison of the size of the structure currently and in the future. But thank you for your willingness to have the items be repurposed for the community's benefit, even just the functionality of chairs and desks, et cetera.
Yeah.
Better to be repurposed than in the landfill.
It's almost like there was some stuff still in boxes that, you know, it's like I mentioned to Mark, it's like somebody took the keys and just walked away. And everything's still there. There's even papers and,
Yep. So if weather or, damage hasn't, done it, we can find good homes for children's books, et cetera, you name it. We can collaborate on that.
So
anything, yeah.
the existing building is a single-story flat roof. This will be a pitch roof. It will stay within the zoning confines of C3, be no more than 35 feet, but will be a little taller. So I would just anticipate that, but that would be more at a special exception in site plan. So if there's nothing else, I want to say this will be on the Planning Commission public hearing agenda for September 6th. And then Kathy, I would advise that let's set up a conversation with your attorney to talk about conditions, but also if you're looking to get on the schedule, it's not too early to start talking about getting a site plan to meet our requirements to get that process. So if we can get you in here, say in November or something like that, that we can definitely do that.
We're already working on the site plan.
Perfect. Okay, perfect. Sure.
Yes, please.
With respect to the site plan, is there a way to have that scheduled? I don't know if we're ready for that yet, but if we are, could we do an informational session if it's necessary right after next month's meeting on the rezoning application?
So with the rezoning, you'll have to go to city council for 2 readings.
Okay.
But what in an ideal world, if you're able to move and meet all the submittal requirements, we would really schedule that informational session, hopefully a week or 2 after that rezoning was approved. Now, it takes a few weeks to be adopted, but that shouldn't stop you from talking to Planning Commission and moving forward with that next step.
And further context to that point, in our municipality, the city council presently meets weekly. So sometimes 2 readings might sound daunting, but we are boop, 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 boop. So those can be in short order. Well, our city charter says we must meet weekly, so we're trying to make the most of it.
I forgot about that because I'm so into the hamster cage at the moment, so yeah.
Then I think we're all set.
Thank
you
all.
so much for coming in
It's-
and sharing
we look
all of this
forward to
exciting
coming-
information with us.
Yes, we look forward to coming home to Pontiac.
Thank you very much. All right, we have another item here, which is the information session for SPR 23-012, James Pepys, the zoning map amendment for 454 Auburn Road.
All right. Hello again. I've got a little brief presentation to set the table. We appreciate the Lighthouse and Pappas firm for just being patient with us on the agenda. So Lighthouse, who you're probably familiar with, who had a rezoning that came forward in December and January to Planning Commission, has another project here. And so this is informational again. The applicant is Todd Burke on behalf of Lighthouse. And this is a multi-story apartment building. Now, the current zoning, I'll show the map in a second, is 3 zoning districts. So it's a little bit of hodgepodge, and they're proposing to rezone it to R4, which is multifamily elevator apartments. And this is on 1.3 acres. So this is I don't have the laser pointer, but the green rectangle is just showing where this is at Auburn. For orientation, this property is just west of the rezoning we had earlier this year with the Willow Gallery, who rezoned from C1 to C3 and had those conditions. So this is adjacent to that property just to the west. If you look on Auburn, there's a lot of C1 and C3 properties. And then to the south, you notice there's a bunch of multifamily apartment buildings. So this use is not, generally, while it's a modification, does not stand out. It's a little bit more intense than what's there now as a residential than a C1 commercial, but generally fits in. This is a site from Google Street View, just showing the property. As you can tell, it's vacant. It's got trees on it, but there's nothing significant happening here. I don't know the history of the site, but it's obviously been vacant for a while. So just an overview. This is a mixed-use corridor. This request is, while there's no conditions today, it is for a 5-story, 54-unit apartment complex. There are no single-family residential zones adjacent to this parcel, and the R4 zoning district allows that multifamily dwelling but permits taller buildings with elevators. So this would be the appropriate district for this use. So that is my presentation. I will let Lighthouse take the floor, ask questions of you. You can ask questions of them and give a presentation. This is slated for public hearing next month if all goes well. So thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Please state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. My name is Jim Pappas. I'm with Fusco Schaefer and Pappas Architects, and our address is 550 East 9 Mile, Ferndale. Thank you, Mark. Did you get the site plan?
I do, but I just don't have it up there.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, again, this is for informational purposes only today with regard to rezoning. What we're proposing on the site, it's 1.3 acres. It is on Auburn. Is a 5-story residential building. We're pushing the building directly to the street to give it an urban context on the street front. All the parking will be behind the building. We think it's an excellent location for this use. And I'd be happy to answer any questions or thoughts about what our ultimate goals on this site are.
I have the question of, let's just start with funding. Is this already paid for? What's the story with that?
The funding for this will be through the MISHTA tax credit program. The program requires that we secure site plan approval as part of the application process. And so this is our first step to secure rezoning and then to secure site plan approval.
Okay, so is it all MISHTA funds for this?
That is the intent at this point, yes.
Okay. I asked staff, how many other 5-story buildings do we have? Is the bank building 5 stories on Huron, or is it taller?
The bank's is at least 5 stories.
Okay.
The former bank building, is that what you're referring to?
Right.
Yeah. How many 5-story buildings do we have on Auburn? I don't believe we have any. There might be one east of MLK, but I mean, most of the buildings are 1 to 3 stories along Auburn between City Hall and MLK.
But in the city overall, I mean, less than a dozen, less than half dozen, probably.
I would say Carriage Circle and
correct.
What's the one off of
Two
Michigan?
towers. There's 2 towers there for Carriage Place Apartments.
Yeah.
There's Phoenix Place Apartments.
Phoenix Place.
Ottawa Tower 1, Ottawa Tower 2, both on Auburn Avenue. The Beacon Square Apartments, that's on Mechanic and Douglas. I believe that's over 5 stories or comes in close to it. That's a residential apartment building. On Miami, how tall are those apartments?
It's probably 5 feet.
5 stories.
5 stories at least. I don't think it's 5 stories, but it might be close. There's apartment buildings on Huron, just east of Dwight. Westland Manor, I think, is the name that's there.
Is that 5 stories? I don't know.
Comparable, something. I don't think it's 3, but I think it's more than 3, but maybe not 5. There are a number of large but vacant apartment buildings that are probably 4 or 3 stories on Liberty, on Dwight, on Murphy, on Monroe. Casa del Rey is definitely over 5 stories. Woodland Heights Apartments is over 5 stories. That's residential. This is a guessing game now at this point, but I would say maybe it's closer to 20, especially if we're considering commercial buildings as well, because we have the Riker building, we have the Pontiac State Bank building. I mentioned the 2 Ottawa Towers. McLaren Oakland Hospital is over 5 stories. St. Joseph Mercy Oakland, now Trinity Oakland, is over 5 stories. There are a few apartment buildings that are 3 or 4 stories that are a little more modern throughout the city.
And then we have the Henry Ford parking garage.
And American House.
They are, I believe, 4 stories.
Okay. There's the former American House, now Baldwin House on Baldwin and Walton. I don't know how many stories that apartment complex senior living is.
Thank you. Thank you. The one, when I'm hearing about this, my cause for pause is the height of the building. And so because it's pretty much by itself out there, I would hope that the materials used on the exterior would be of higher quality of, let's just say it, brick masonry, as opposed to some combination of something less than that. I appreciate that you want to keep it close to the street and put the parking in the back. That can actually add some intimacy to that part of the area along Auburn. But those are just my couple of things immediately when I first heard about what was going to be discussed this evening. So I will head to Mr. Mike, if you want to add anything more, your thoughts.
I love it. I love it. Auburn Avenue is an important corridor in our city, but if you drove it today, you would not know it. There has been a great deal of atrophy, demolition, neglect, vacant land. And the site that we are discussing is a vacant parcel. It has been vacant for a number of years. It backs up to affordable housing and of multiple units off of Whittemore Street. Is that complex with J. Hubbard Lane, is that in your constellation of activities with Lighthouse, or is that another entity?
Yeah, no, we own I think it's 12 townhomes there on J. Hubbard.
Could you state your name and address for the record, please? Thank you.
I'm Todd Burke with Lighthouse.
Thank you, Todd. Go ahead.
So as Mr. Burke shared, there's 12 townhome units that basically back up to this parcel, broadly speaking. You access it from Whittemore, but it is surreal to have this important artery and corridor on the east side of our city to have so much of vacant and an absence of amenities, of residential areas. There are multiple complexes that either are on or near Auburn Avenue that are housing. And so it wouldn't be, sort of a real outlier or bizarre to have multifamily residential housing. And I'm really appreciative that you're thinking about the frontage to the street, that you're not looking to have, as someone's going down Auburn Avenue, all your parking and your mechanicals facing Auburn and all the nice stuff. The new construction is sort of tucked away and hidden from the street. We want Auburn Avenue to look amazing. We want Auburn Avenue to be thriving and active, and it's very important, as the city council person representing the east side, that Pike, that Auburn, that Sanford, that MLK, and even South Boulevard, there's a lot of growth that's happened on South Boulevard, that those corridors truly become mixed-use, thriving corridors that they have been historically, although, of course, it was with the use and the construction limitations that the 1930s, 40s, and 50s provided. So this really is an opportunity for us to help set for the future course what we want the Auburn Avenue of the next 50 or 100 years to be. And I do want to see more density along Auburn Avenue. I think that is appropriate. We're not looking for something that's endless strip malls. I think there's enough of that in Metro Detroit. There's even enough of that in Pontiac already. So even if it doesn't land in this final finished product, I'm grateful that you're thinking about creating that front-facing density, that Auburn Avenue-facing vitality. We have a strong need for attainable and affordable housing in the city of Pontiac, and we have shown on the east side that we are not scared of that we are not daunted by that it can be integrated into owner-occupied single-family residences. It can be integrated into various different types of structures, and it has worked well. Of course, quality matters, and quality of management and maintenance matters greatly. But we have seen various different providers be able to do so effectively on the east side. One of my predecessors on the city council, Everett C., advised me that over the decades, his approach was, by any means necessary, all the existing
funding sources and existing tax entities or newfangled initiatives that the state or the federal government was rolling out when it came to housing, go for it. And it's one of the reasons why we actually have a great deal of new construction or quality housing on the east side, is because previous city leaders and previous planning commissions, they went for it and they saw what was possible. So I just want to say that, be it this site or other sites, for this applicant and other applicants, I am eager to see the east side of Pontiac continue to have that infill, to have vacancy filled with vacancy, with loss to be replaced with vibrancy. And I look forward to more detail and specificity. And that's true for other applications that come forth too. Of course, the details will matter, but broadly speaking, from a direction and leadership perspective, this is a very welcome step forward to have this in contention for Auburn Avenue. Because sometimes, of course, it's dictated by what existing structures are there, trying to adapt and repurpose an existing building no matter how that was oriented. So now we're looking at new construction. So we get to help shape and orient what's the best benefit and what's the best planning use for the land in our city. It's very promising. And I'm looking at the map here. Purple is where we're sitting now. It's the Civic Center just to the downtown. It might be hard for some of us to envision it today, but I can envision an opportunity where there is dense occupancy, new construction mixed with preservation where we can, that Auburn Avenue contiguously from downtown all the way to the borders of Auburn Hills, where we meet Opdyke Road, then there can be mixed use vitality of residential, commercial, and green space, well landscaped, and I might add, we're getting a new Auburn Avenue in a few years where it will be repaved. We right now have new pedestrian crossings and traffic signalization that is going in. So now is the right time when we're charting the future course for the east side and for Auburn Avenue. And I welcome it, and I welcome the fine tuning of what comes next. I live very close to here. And so not by you, but there was the Winston Commons that was developed, those townhouses on Mechanic, Huron, and Douglas. And for many years, it was vacant land or empty sites. The demand for those sliding scale attainable housing was so great that they were snapped up so quickly, and there is not issue one in terms of the caliber or the cohesiveness of the community. And also, even just across the street here, the Pike Street and Douglas Street, the co-op apartments, they've been in existence since the 1960s, and they have been very well maintained, very high demand, very, waiting list, of course, that there is the need, acute need in Pontiac, and there are families that would welcome the opportunity to have thriving, well-maintained homes and apartments and townhomes and condos and multiple dwelling opportunities. And so from Auburn to downtown to the north side to the south side and the west side, I'm excited about this possibility. And there I did it again, I'm sorry.
Thank you, Mike.
Mike just said it all. So.
I know,
I mean,
good
you
night,
guys have heard
everybody.
me enough to say, just bring us something that's high quality. I mean, what we've seen you guys do in the past is great. What we don't want is something that's, not, I mean, he hit it all. If it's not maintained and it's dirty, and then it becomes another one of those bad things. So bring us something great. That's what
Yeah,
we're
if it's
for.
poorly
But-
designed and poorly constructed, 20 years from now, you'll still be around and we'll still be around and you'll hear from us. So it'll impact other proposals and projects.
We'll hunt you, so. No, great project, though, and Mike summed it up great. So.
I should have asked about ideal time frame. Like, obviously, you have to deal with the nuances of the state agencies and hitting their benchmarks and deadlines, but if you had your best-case scenario, what are you looking at?
I think with the current timeline, we'll probably go into the March round possibly, but they've changed a lot of the rules this year, so we'll have to see.
So you would need rezoning.
Rezoning and site plan approval. The ultimate goal, I think, is December.
Right.
actually.
Yeah.
If we could pull it off by December, it'd be wonderful. We're just not sure that there's enough time to get through the steps.
You mean you'd break ground by December?
No, we would need site plan approval.
By
We're
December.
required to have site plan approval in hand as part of the application to
Right.
MISTA.
When
And
do
there's
you
only
think-
certain rounds in the year where they
Right.
can go for that state consideration, so
And
they're
the
aiming
next
for the
round is
March round.
December.
Okay.
And we're not sure about the round after that, just because of the new schedules they've come up with.
Okay.
So if something went well and you
That-
potentially could,
That would be amazing.
okay,
to
so
get in.
December is the push.
Yes.
Okay, good to know.
And so if everything happens in December as you're hoping it shall, when do you anticipate breaking ground and completion?
That being said, we would probably, if we could get into December round, funding would probably be after the first of the year. It generally takes 9 months to a year to get from the funding to the start of construction. So
okay.
we'd probably be looking at construction, that would be the beginning of '25.
Okay.
Nothing
just-
moves quickly with,
With government, we understand.
well,
But that helps to put,
okay.
something
Yes.
tactical.
We have to take the first step.
Right, very good. Go ahead, Sam.
This is a very exciting project, and it seems to be on par with everything else you guys have done. But my question is, do you have any preliminary figures on how much the rent will be subsidized and what will be the cost for the tenants?
I think we're working those up right now with more of a pro forma type,
Mhm.
but I'll check with Shannon. How's he got down there?
I'll have plenty of other opportunities to ask you that.
Sure, get that opportunity for sure.
Great, thanks. Go ahead, Sue.
What's the basic footprint size of the building, just
The
so?
footprint's about 10,000 square feet approximately, and so 5 stories, the total square footage is about 50.
I'm looking more towards length and width. My concern is, like Mona's, the height of the building in that area, just so I could, get something comparable to scale that's already existing. Do you happen to know that?
It's about 185 feet long, approximately.
Okay, by about what?
The depth is probably about 70.
70?
Yeah, this
Okay.
way. Yeah, it's probably in the range of 70 by about 185. And the height would be 5 stories, so that would be
56.
around, the first floor is usually about 12 feet, and each floor after that's about 10.
Are you planning on showing us elevations?
Well, yes, when
Okay.
for site plan approval, absolutely.
Right, okay.
At the rezoning, we're just at this point right now with the information.
My
yes.
concern with that is, I get the complex name confused. I think it's the Hamilton. Is that the one on Carter Street? No, the one,
Yes,
the one
Car-
that's downtown.
that's the Hamilton on Carter Street downtown.
We were shown, I wasn't on the planning commission at the time, but we were shown beautiful elevations of a building that would have really enhanced the downtown. And of course, construction costs, things tend to get cut. And of course, it's, what's expensive. And the building ended up resulting in nothing that it looked like originally and what was
Oh.
approved. That's kind of my concern. I believe you came to the planning commission previously for a proposal on Casa del Rey. Was that you? I believe his name was Jason? No?
Which one was the Casa del
Your
Rey?
company.
Right. Where was that one?
That's over by Pontiac General Hospital. It's the beautiful building from the 20s.
Historic Commission?
Oh, that one, it just never got funded.
Right.
Yeah, yes.
I mean, he had a great plan.
Right.
The
Yes.
gentleman that presented it. So my concern is really not with you per se. It's just,
It's usually that, we work on a lot of projects that get this far, and for one reason or another, this funding falls through or what have you, so.
well, when he presented that, it was pretty competitive at that time. So, yeah, I'd like to hear from the residents that are in the area, and I'd like to see further. But so far, it looks really, really nice.
Thanks.
By the way,
I
it's
don't
gonna-
believe there's any single-family residential that's adjacent to this parcel, though, is there? Okay.
Correct, there's not, you would have to go to that light yellow, and you're looking at least 150 feet away.
Well, any adjoining properties, let's say.
Well, yes.
By the way, Sue, when you look at their rendering, their ingress and egress for that site look like it's probably on the property lines.
Right, it's
So-
on each side, right?
Yeah,
on
so that'll
Auburn.
give you a sense when you drive over there, the lot lines.
Right.
That'll
Thank
give you a
you.
better idea.
Great point, but, so there's an existing vacant structure that's to the east. This planning commission's familiar with it because it recently received a rezoning. To the west of you is the property under construction, formerly vacant, but so, does that look like it's 30 feet off of where the structure used to border you on the west before the property line, perhaps?
The building itself?
Yeah, just because if we were looking at it, there's some fallow land there. Most of it's this parcel, I imagine. How large is the parcel?
It's like an acre and a
Yes.
third.
1.34 acres. So we can at least know the eastern perimeter of that parcel based on where that parking lot is for the former Friends Assisting in Recovery, now that art gallery storage slash prospective site, and then the site under construction to the west. It might be a little hard to tell, but thank you very much. That's helpful.
Todd, can you show that to the camera up top?
Please.
Can I have your autograph?
Yeah, you know, one of the issues, oh, excuse me.
Anything else, Sue?
No, I'm good, thank you.
Thank you.
One of the issues I have with affordable housing is that it sometimes, after a year or two, it becomes a blighted housing, to be honest with you. And I'm not sure of all the factors that are involved in it. I haven't studied it that well. I think Mr. McGinnis he was able to rattle off a number of different large structures that we have in town. I'm just wondering, are there some guidelines beyond just the building itself, just guidelines, best practices that in terms of designing the building, beyond the facades, things that you're going to put into this building? Like, naturally, you have to have an elevator at 5. But are we also talking a certain type of HVAC characteristic for each apartment? And then who pays for that? And then how does that get factored into the, the cost of the building? And then management, who's going to be, what are some of the things that management looks for in terms of leasing?
Our firm does an awful lot of affordable housing throughout the state of Michigan. Other housing as well, but we do a lot of affordable. And I can tell you the main reason some affordable housing projects go bad, it's the management. That's always the rule. And good management organizations like Lighthouse, care about their projects and take care of them and maintain the landscaping and maintain the tenant rolls. And this type of housing, it's called affordable. However, it's, in the big picture, the majority of the people that live in these buildings work. It's not non-working people. It's lower income individuals. There's sliding scales so that, people that are 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 80% of medium income all qualify for different, units in the building. So it's these types of projects to me are really workforce housing today. That's who lives in these types of buildings. And we incorporate in common areas as part of the MSHDA requirement. Each of these buildings has to be certified, whether it be LEED certified or NGBS Green certified. That is a requirement today, so that the quality of the mechanical systems, electrical systems, plumbing systems especially, are top-notch. They have to meet certain quality criteria and energy criteria. That's part of the project today. So there's a lot of thought that goes into these. With regard to who pays, it varies from project to project depending on the process for utilities. Ultimately, the tenant pays for it, but sometimes it comes from the rent, sometimes it's paid directly, so.
Now, the lead certifications, that's beyond anything that's in our city
Absolutely.
ordinances and
So-
building codes.
So is NGBS. So and there's typically lead NGBS or enterprise certification. Those are far beyond any state of Michigan code requirements.
So as you bring in your site plans
Mhm.
and present them to us, that's going to be one of the conditions that you put into your presentation to us that we would approve? So that down the road,
I typically wouldn't do that, but that's a requirement of the MISTA funding.
well, okay.
It-
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, it's.
And I'm looking over toward Mr. Yendrick about just what's going to be in the package that's presented to us that would speak toward the facility having, some quality in terms of livability, how it presents to us, the specs of the building that I don't think our building ordinance nor even a lot of the building specs right now would cover, and that would be great if that's called out as it comes to us, to have that written in as a condition that's agreed to by the applicant.
So I'm glad you brought that up, and I want to bring this up with conditions as a whole to discuss. Obviously, this is just a rezoning. So anyone, if this were to be approved as is, anyone can come forward with a multifamily building, and we'd be really subject to our zoning code and the design process in there. And we do have architectural requirements for multifamily residential homes, and we will see that for an upcoming site plan. But if there's something specific that you want to give that feedback to the applicant that they want to maybe incorporate into this rezoning, that's what actually binds it, for any future development. So I would encourage to share that if you feel that something is above and beyond. Along those same lines, I concur with Council President or Planning Commission member McGinnis's statement that it is really exciting that this building is being moved to the road, and a lot of city planners like that because it just provides a level of engagement for drivers, for walkers. Believe it or not, when you usually pull buildings of the road, cars actually slow down. They don't even realize they're going a little slower. And so one of the discussions I had a little bit with the applicant's team, and I wanted to ask Planning Commission this as a whole tonight, but the answer would help them in our discussions is it worthwhile? There's about 20-foot buffer between the front of the building and the public right-of-way, the back of the sidewalk. Is there any, is offering a condition that there would be a mini park or something that's open to the public, even if it's not a park? Some little engagement area that is privately owned, but it is open to the public, as part of that engagement for having this dense development here, for having a 5-story building where it's not there. There are pedestrians on Auburn. There's probably not as many that potentially could be, but you do have a lot of single-family residential homes, and if they're going to be walking downtown, some may drive, but if they're going to be walking downtown either by choice or not by choice, having amenities along Auburn would be helpful. And so really it's a question for Planning Commission. Do you see that worthwhile for this consideration for the zoning district of R4 in this location? So,
Can I answer that question?
Well,
yeah,
if I could make one more statement. And the reason I ask that, I really respect Lighthouse and a lot of the work that you've done. And I think you're probably one of the best organizations that we have to really put together a set of best practices, put them into place, understand how we need to communicate with each other to get a good operation going. I think you're probably one of the better organizations that we have a chance to do that with. And that's why I'm asking some of these questions about what's out there, specs to go over and beyond just our bare minimum specs, things that guarantee that the management of the apartment becomes something that can occur. I mean, if you got bad facilities, it's tough to manage that. You know, you just get into kicking people in, bringing people out, kicking people out and bringing people in, and that sort of thing. And you know, but if you have a good facility, you actually have the residents that start to work to keep that facility up with you, and they work with you to manage that facility and stuff. And I think that's what's happened over off of Pike and other areas. That was a nicely designed co-op unit, but a poorly designed building, and often affordable housing, I think, has said jam as many people as you can into the smallest space as you can. So that's why I'm bringing that up. Excuse me, Mark. And yes, I would think that would be excellent. I think as many amenities and things that we can do, particularly in this project, make this project kind of like the flagship project for housing, affordable housing, which we do need in the city, desperately need in the city. Yes.
Yeah. Hardest part of that is we have not talked architecture very, greatly, and that's typically you wouldn't see that at this, but we'll try to at least have a conversation to see if they're willing to offer something to incentivize this rezoning request.
Yeah.
So to answer, are you done? Yes. To answer your question, I would say yes, to put something outside between the building and the road, even the sidewalk and the road, but hopefully not quite as close as that, where people are going to be able to enjoy the soft serve ice cream from across the street from Leon's or Leone's, because you're going to blow them up once you put that building there. So I think that would be something that would be appreciated by the community. I have a question, and it's maybe a staff question, but it does apply specifically to this project. When taller structures are constructed, what is the requirement for soundproofing? And the reason I ask that is because I was just in a hotel over the weekend, brand new, well, within the last couple of years, and the water that ran down from the room up above woke me up as it ran down the wall. It was horrific. So I know there's costs to construction. You have to meet a certain threshold of the budget, but when you say this is workforce housing, I don't think that people who are being relegated to workforce housing need to necessarily be in a cheap environment. So do you have any thoughts about that? Do you have any comments about that?
Can I ask you can I summarize your question? What are the noise requirements for construction? Or is it
for construction in Pontiac for soundproofing within the structure?
The building, okay. I don't believe we have any municipal, obviously we probably have a noise ordinance for total decibels and sound, but I'm not sure that our municipal ordinance is any different than what the state code is for soundproofing. I can check that and provide that as part of the public hearing next month.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't know if you've had any comments on that from other things that you've built, but any thoughts that you
There are specific sound requirements in the Michigan Building Code that we have to provide horizontally between units, floor to floor. There's two types. One is for low decibel sounds, and that's where we put in insulation between the floor structures. The other is for noise like this, that tapping on the floor, where we have to put in mats underneath the floor tile to absorb that sound today. Additionally, there are STC ratings for sound transmission in all the walls between units, the walls between the corridor, et cetera. So there are specific sound level minimums that we have to meet in all those locations.
Okay. All right. I don't know if it's because the way sound travels along piping or something, but I've never experienced that before, where I've heard people in hotel rooms near me, but not like how the water ran down that wall.
I'm not sure what they did at that particular condition.
Was it Michigan?
It was not Michigan.
Oh.
So.
There might have been different, from state to state, the code does vary.
Understood. I have no other questions. If anyone, go ahead.
I have an answer as well. So yes, by all means. And I think that that's part of what really excites me, the thoroughfare to the north, Pike Street, for us to have the connector of the Clinton River Trail running along Pike Street, to have that green space, that buffer, that 10 feet wide walking path where it can be biking and walking, can both be supported there. We understand that it won't have that same contiguous structure, but I think that that same concept of Auburn being aesthetically pleasing for everyone that lives near there, driving through there, walking through there, but then also just the hardscape also, that it's beneficial, it's pleasant, it's, supportive. So I anticipate, especially as the years go on, Auburn Avenue will have even more bus service. So, depending on where that falls in relation to your site, I would encourage you to consider that. As the Downtown Development Authority Executive Director in the city of Berkeley, they converted a former Catholic school, parochial school, into lofts and apartments, but they have a bit of a green space between the building and the road.
Right.
That just happened to be how that, the archdiocese constructed it. But there's the enclosed bus shelter already existed there, but their landscaping is done to enhance that, to offer that to be more palatable and presentable. Ms. Chair Parlov has invoked the Dairy Delights that are offered across the street with the pedestrian enhancements, I believe, literally in front of that ice cream parlor, which now has new owners that are from the neighborhood and Pontiac residents, but there will be a dedicated pedestrian crossing there with the hawk beacon signals. And so, by all means, leverage that so that way, because we respect and understand if an amenity is done in a silo or in isolation, one, it doesn't have as much of an intended effect, but it also isn't as noticeable. But for this to be done in concert, and we hope that the site to the east will follow through on what their proposals are. Have you received any new movement in the department from that?
We have not, but he also warned us he'd be doing it, but in a short amount of time, so, so.
And then immediately to the west, has it gone through your division about that structure at the southeast corner of Sanford and Auburn?
I've been by there a lot in the last week, and I'm not sure what's going in there, so I will make sure I work with our building team, and we understand. I'm not aware, so.
Please do, yeah. Of course, we want to make sure that the appropriate permits are issued, but also the debris is appropriately handled. There's some trailers there. I've called on it before, and it was resolved when it wasn't actively under construction.
Yeah.
So now I'm curious about that, but it matters, in the context of other developments that we're discussing here. But to that point, to have those amenities in that green space, even if it's just well-maintained and well-curated landscaping with some seating options, that's amazing. Okay. But do it in a way that works and leverages what the other features would be on the thoroughfare.
Mark, excuse me, is there a bike path currently planned on our side of the street there?
For Auburn, no.
Okay.
On Pike to the north, there is from the recent announcement. So,
Great.
Yeah.
All right.
As a biker, you don't ride on Auburn. Not right now. Even though it's supposed to be 35, it's kind of narrow and, yeah.
As a biker, you have to choose wisely which streets you ride on.
Well, I think that's everything. Thank you for
Thank you.
bringing this exciting
Appreciate it.
project to us. We look forward to seeing you again soon.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome. All right. Next item is the master plan process update presented by our planning manager, Mark Yendrick. Oh, I don't know, but if I did, I would eat it because I'm hungry.
We see the mouse on the drop, if that's helpful.
See it here, but then I didn't realize it was up there.
Oh.
So, Good evening again. This is a brief presentation. I had to laugh. I did this the first item at City Council a couple weeks ago. I'm doing this exact presentation. I think there's roughly 6 slides here, really about the master plan and what's coming up here just to prepare you. So I just wanted to share, we've appreciated working with you as a planning commission, part of community developments to facilitate ongoing investment in the community and safeguard the health, safety, welfare of those who work, live, and play in Pontiac. And you guys as planning commission are definitely upholding that. So master plan is a discussion that it's amazed me. It's every city council meeting it's been brought up. The master plan is a community plan identifying the vision for the future of Pontiac, as well as strategies, goals, and objectives to achieve that vision. And you will hear me say strategy, goals, and objectives a lot, because I think that's going to be really the funnel and the key to move forward. The master plan must be a foundational document that is respected, aspirational, the basis for future budgets, and consistent with other plans and leverages local and regional partnerships. As you may know, the city's last master plan was adopted in 2014. Generally, master plans should be a minimum reviewed every 5 years and updated where necessary. So there has not been a review at the city here, but what I will share briefly of the 2014 plan is the recommendations had 4 for planning, 8 for economic development, and 20 for parks and open space. So as you can tell, post-emergency management, there was likely a little bit more of a draw on natural resources to try to, rehabilitate those. With that said, I think going forward, we really have some key strategies that we need to have some conversations about as a community and provide some recommendations. So the city expects to utilize a consultant for assistance with the master plan. The consultant provides a very valuable service as they are experts in the master planning process, help to facilitate the process to evaluate and create consensus and create the final document. Having an outsider be a facilitator is very helpful because we are all biased one way or another on one item, where we live, our neighborhoods, and really getting that outside opinion that is an expert is very helpful for this. We are planning, it's aggressive, we are planning a 9-month project here filled with public engagement opportunities to establish strategies, objectives, and goals and their priorities for the community. So right now, I am working to finalize partnerships and technical assistance with the master plan process. We are looking at state and county resources, and I will share that with the community when those are finalized that will help us out. So this is meant for residents, but I mean, it absolutely applies to Planning Commission. As part of a master plan process, input from the community is very important. This is not, we're just having a meeting to hear from everyone. We already know what we're going to do. That is not the case. Really, it is important to get feelings from people about the current situation, existing conditions, and the future vision for the city. Corey from our office is working on creating some surveys. And we will be having open houses consistent with the city's public engagement policy to gather feedback and ideas for that future. Next May and June will also be opportunities as a community to review draft documents. Planning Commission will be very involved in there may be some of you that are representatives on an executive committee. There may be, and as a commission, you guys will be reviewing the draft document before it goes to City Council. Really, this is the timeline right here. I am working on a draft RFQ process. We have some internal and external partners that will be reviewing that as well. We hope to select a contractor next month, and that process would go to June of 2023 with hopefully adoption next year. If there are any delays in this process, it's just that we are finalizing our partnerships, which are important for that RFP so the potential bidder or contractor would know what partnerships are there. So we are working heavily on that and hopefully can achieve those soon. So really, that is my brief presentation. Again, I just wanted to formalize where we're going. And it's going to be a lot of work for the community. It's going to be a lot of work for Planning Commission, City Council, and it's going to be a lot of work for staff. But I know that there's excitement to get this done. We have a lot of great active projects in the city, but getting a long-term vision and plan and aligning those with the other city initiatives and finding private partners to understand what those long-term visions are going to be very helpful. So with that, that is my presentation. If you have any questions.
Thank you for that. Tim, any questions? Sam? Sue? Chris?
Great strategy. Great strategy. Go ahead. Go.
Sounds great to us. So
Okay,
thank you for all that
sounds good.
information.
Okay.
All right, so now we are to our section of public comments. Public. Do you have anything to say?
Can I put on my public hat? and
Please
make
do.
an announcement?
Please do. Let me open. Okay. please.
Okay. Let me start. Chris Northcross, whatever. But October 13th, I'd like for you to put that on your calendars. That should be Friday, October the 13th, at the Marriott Hotel. The NAACP, the Northern Oakland County branch of the NAACP, will hold its annual Freedom Fund dinner. And this is the first Freedom Fund dinner that I think we've held in about 3 years, face to face. So we're looking for a good time. We're looking for an uplifting spiritual time, and ask that you all join us. Ticketing and other information should be coming out shortly, as will the speaker. So, but reserve that spot. 6 p.m. Friday, October the 13th is the time to reserve it, and we'll have more information to come.
Very good. Thank you for that. You want to stop? Did you meet your time? Great, thank you.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to go to the far right. Sam, do you have anything tonight for us? Sue?
I do. I just wanted to make a general comment about our planning commission packages that we get on Fridays. I truly appreciate the executive summary, specifically regarding 175 East Walton. I think you did that, Corey. It was great. I mean, it saved me some time. It was thorough, explanatory, definitely helped. And my second comment is, when are we updating the zoning map? And that's all my comments for this evening. Thank you.
Very good. Do you want to answer that now?
Sure, and I'm going to move into staff communications if that works.
Sure.
Okay. And I have an order here, so if you don't mind, I'm just going to follow that, but I'll answer that in a second. Next meeting is Wednesday, September 6th. We are looking at least, we're trying to push through 3 staff-initiated items, and so we're going to have informational session on all 3 of them. I'm not ready to prepare what those are. However, one of them is the zoning map. I'm anticipating, so we have our, Justin Curry from our office has been going through a lot of Planning Commission, City Council meeting minutes and trying to extract out every little, we don't have the best information and data here, so he's been working really hard. Corey and I are about to start reviewing, but we're expecting to have 80% of the design and get that ready for City Council. So I'm going to review with legal to make sure we have a proper process, because this, I don't believe, is a zoning map amendment, but is an adoption of the zoning map. City Council, I know, does have the authority to do it. We'll make sure we do it that the right way. I do want to share that with Planning Commission. The idea is that there will be still, this will be shared publicly in case someone feels, hey, I had a rezoning, why is this not on here? And, gives us a chance to actually do some record finding. The last zoning map was really updated in 2014, and this absolutely is unacceptable and needs to be fixed. It's taken a lot longer of going through minutes and finding corrective actions. We've had to go back through, on some cases, had to go back a couple times to see what the final result is. But we're moving forward with that, and I hope to share that with you next month, both digitally, and then we'll have some printouts. So, the next item is the October meeting is normally scheduled for October 4th. That in Planning Commission's calendar, that's when it is. The state planning conference is during that time. And I wanted to ask Planning Commission your availability for October 11th. And while I think we have a large enough department, sometimes we could, when there's events, have this staffed. Because this is the first year for many of us here, not only are we very involved in Pontiac, I think that education piece is very important. And I wanted Planning Commission to consider October 11th, if at all possible. Please let me know in the next week, because a lot of these applicants, we let know at 30 days, 60 days in advance. We have let a couple of them know, but we would love to schedule that very soon. So just let me know one way or another if October 11th works for you. There is an HDC meeting that night, and we'll be able to schedule that appropriately. So
that's the second Wednesday?
Second Wednesday, yep, 6 p.m.
Works for me.
Okay.
Me as well.
Okay.
It works for me for a Planning Commission meeting October the 11th.
That is correct.
Yes,
Yep.
it works for me.
Yep. Okay.
So we'll let you follow Commissioner Duval on that.
Actually, I already asked her. She's going to double check, but absolutely. Thank you very much for that consideration. And Mike, I wanted to give Planning Commission some city council updates. So maybe we can tandem this if you wanted to lead it.
No, you lead it, and I'll
Okay,
happily field any questions.
All right, so let's talk about some rezonings that have gone through Planning Commission. The rezoning for Longfellow School did get approved. It is a conditional rezoning saying that the school, a certain percentage or square footage of both residential and non-residential uses within the school have to get occupancy before they can start vertical construction on the rest of the site. So that was passed, I believe, 2 weeks ago, and they will be moving forward with that. The next step will likely be a site plan. So I'm sure it's going to take some time to get that together, but I wanted to share that City Council did adopt that. 144 Pike has not gone to City Council yet. I know as part of the discussions about being a civic use, Commissioner McGinnis was asking about if the city could talk to them. There's been some rescheduling on those meetings, so that's the only reason it's getting delayed slightly. But I anticipate that that's going to be heard by City Council in first reading in the next month. So. Last night, not related to Planning Commission, but City Council adopted an ordinance on rental homes and really standards for substandard housing to bring things up into compliance. Now, I've not seen the full final ordinance, but this should help. We've got a lot of issues with in the city historically, just with landlords that are not taking care of their properties, putting their tenants in harm's way. And so there are some corrective measures that Manager McIntyre has put together. So I wanted to share, and hopefully that's a positive win for the community going forward. Do you have anything to add to that?
I can share that Mayor Greimel delivered his State of the City address last week, and of course, many of the items that this Planning Commission has helped touch was referenced. Broadly speaking, I wanted to share that at next week's City Council meeting, we will have a public hearing as well as consideration of at least 3 resolutions related to the Pontiac redevelopment project that Oakland County is pursuing. Since we last met, it was already known last month, I believe, but that the state funding has come through to Oakland County for $50 million to support the redevelopment project that they've proposed, establishing once more a campus in downtown Pontiac. So as part of those negotiations with Oakland County, there is a memorandum of agreement that's been proposed that Oakland County Commission is considering, and the City Council in tandem will consider, that among many other steps would involve the transferring of ownership of the Phoenix Center to the County of Oakland, so that way Oakland County can demolish the Phoenix Center structure, can construct one or two parking decks that would be operated and paid for by Oakland County, not by the taxpayers of Pontiac. It would reconnect and reconstruct Saginaw Street as an open thoroughfare, repair Orchard Lake and Auburn Avenue, which is already a connected thoroughfare, but it's underneath 3 floors of concrete, cement. And it would also obligate the county to move at least 500 employees to these complexes. There are 2 towers that they are purchasing from a private seller, Tower 1 and Tower 2. One technically has a Woodward Avenue address, one technically has a Judson Street address, and what they have indicated that they will be occupying one of those towers fully, and that the other will be leased out, multiple use, maybe in the future sold for other use. The county is not intending to have those 2 towers fully operational. But through the negotiations, a lot more teeth has been added, and I wanted to share because it's from a planning and zoning perspective, it literally is the crossroads of the center of our community, so it has a lot of implications. But we have explicitly had it added that after demolition happens, and it's identified where on the currently 8 acres of the footprint of the Phoenix Center, where those parking deck or decks go, that of that remaining vacant land, at least 2 acres must be green space used for civic or performance and gathering space, and that it would be transferred back to the city. So essentially where the demolition is being professionally handled and all done on the the dime of the city, or excuse me, the county using state resources, but returning back to us would be green space that would be city-owned. And it would be at least 2 acres because that's the footprint of the existing amphitheater and performance space and seating area on the top level of the Phoenix Center. And also, it will necessitate the paying off of, we owe as a city $5 million in debt on the Phoenix Center. The state is granting us $5 million, and as part of this, multifaceted approach, that will be paid off. So we no longer have to have debt service of about $1 million a year for that Phoenix Center. So I just want to bring that up because it has a lot of implications. We have also worked out where they will be developing a campus plan for this downtown Pontiac campus, and it will be done in conjunction with the city. So this planning commission may in fact have formal or informal place at the table, depending on how that shakes out, where it's not Oakland County doing this to Pontiac or doing this, deciding it, and then whatever the case may be, we're left with it. It will be done in conjunction and collaboration. Because the county executive and the county commission heard us loud and clear, we're not looking for this sort of business office park kind of in an ivory tower, not part of the overall organic environment of the downtown. We want it to be integrated. We want it to lead to foot traffic into our restaurants and our businesses and our public spaces, and they are fully agreeing on that. And the fact that this campus plan is going to be done in tandem with the city, I think, is a big step forward in that way. So if anyone watching this evening or on the Planning Commission wants to offer your 2 cents or raise questions, the public hearing is scheduled for our City Council meeting next Tuesday, August 8th, 6 p.m. in these chambers. Yes, Commissioner.
Will the memorandum of understanding be available to look at on the website?
Yes, it will be in our City Council packets, which are made available on the city's website, or you could request it from the clerk's office if you prefer a hard copy that Friday prior. So that means this, in 2 days' time, if not before, that it will be accessible as it is, the final format that will be considered by this City Council. And I should note, I believe the Oakland County Commission might even be considering it tomorrow. So it might be available even sooner through the Oakland County Commission. I can't say definitively because I don't set their meetings. But the administration and council leadership went to the county commission meeting last week and strongly advocated for these further improvements to make it a stronger deal for Pontiac. And all of those elements were incorporated. It struck a very collaborative, cooperative tone, and the county commission did vote 11-5 to proceed with the closing, with the purchase for $19.2 million of those 2 office towers and assuming the lease of the Phoenix Center. I'll point out that it might be noteworthy for this body, they had 2 appraisals done, and both supported that value for those towers. They came in, I think, $19.6 and $19.9 million for very substantial commercial properties in our downtown.
And if I could add, Commissioner Powell last night at the City Council meeting also invited the public to a listening session at the Crowfoot Monday night, this coming Monday, the 7th at 6:30 p.m., and I will probably be in attendance, more listening myself too. I don't know if the county is driving that listening session.
They are.
Yeah.
They are, and so Commissioner Angela Powell and Commissioner Kristen Nelson both represent parts of the city of Pontiac on the county commission, so they're convening it. But my understanding is that the staff members for Oakland County who are coordinating the project, and probably the Deputy County Executive, Sean Carlson, and maybe the county executive himself, but they'll be there to field questions, share what the early concepts are. And there's so many more steps to come. This is pretty early on in the process. So, for some, they might think, why are we getting this sort of like when it's a done deal? Well, conceptually, it's the table is set, but there are so many more steps in terms of the tens of millions of dollars they're going to have to spend to make those buildings viable for their county operations. But as soon as they close, they are responsible for the insurance and the security and the structural integrity of the Phoenix Center, which is part of the reason why that's an important question that the city must finally address now that the sort of Phoenix Center purgatory is coming to an end.
So when are they supposed to close?
Their closing date right now is scheduled for August 16th. And,
In 2 weeks?
and so we have, through our agreements, that is the date identified that we as the city council will take certain steps. But they are predicating a lot on decisions being made at the August 8th city council meeting, and then, a lot of other actions to flow. But that's what's scheduled right now, is this August 16th closing date.
Very exciting. Thank you. Do you have
And
more?
the last item is, thank you for a very active evening. I think we have a lot of great projects going on. With the items that were informational session, if there's something you didn't ask or you maybe want staff to prepare, hey, can you get us the traffic on Auburn or get any data that might help you make that decision, please let either myself or the chair, Chair Parlov, know, just so we can provide that to you and the public for our staff report and presentation at next month's public hearings. So, thank you.
Excellent.
Also, at tomorrow night's city council meeting, if anyone's interested, we are considering the establishing of an obsolete property rehabilitation district, or OPRA district, for 46 North Saginaw Street, the former Neisner's department store that's in downtown Pontiac. Developer Lauren Guzik, who owns that property and the open air space just to the south of it, is proposing, I believe, 18, but multiple residential units on their multiple floors, and pursuing an OPRA, since it's no longer a commercial department store. It's obsolete for that current use. So that district will be for consideration, and then we'll hold a specific public hearing and resolution in the future about their exemption certificate request. So more downtown housing proposed.
Anything else for public comment?
Oh, there's so much more, but I think I was trying to keep it to like planning and housing and development stuff, but next weekend is going to be crazy busy in Pontiac.
With
We have Roadkill Nights. Ice Cube was just announced that he's doing a concert in downtown Pontiac.
Oh my gosh.
Erebus Haunted Attraction is doing a documentary and open house tour. There are 2 weddings downtown. There's the Pontiac Panthers game at Wisner Stadium. And I know I'm forgetting something. It's just like a constant confluence of all these events. So August 12th will be very dynamic.
Most business owners don't know what's going on.
So, and if I could add to that, so we just received a map and we're waiting for final approval for the Roadkill event. What I can share, though, is that while the Roadkill is typically a ticketed event, there are certain areas that are ticketed. A lot of things at this event are not ticketed. So if you are able to come downtown, want to be part of the festivities, there will still be stuff on Saginaw and some of the cross streets that you would be able to access. Now, in terms of business owners, we did have a mailing last Friday to business owners and property owners downtown, and we will have a follow-up with the map and more details so you have times, access, things like that. And we're doing our best to reach out to people that have, contacted us from that original mailing. So
Yeah, and the Ice Cube news just broke this afternoon. But Motor Trend Magazine is a national operation. They're really organizing it, and there's a lot more pieces that have just recently fallen into place. But
Who's the person to talk to about this stuff?
from the mayor's office, Angela Powell.
Yeah.
Angela Powell is coordinating some of those, but I think that Manager Yandrick can very easily field that from
We have a
businesses.
wedding that was scheduled 2 years ago, where weddings are, right? But now they're shut down, they can't get their people in.
I received a call from the ownership, but I never got a call. I've left a voicemail, never got a call back. So, yeah, absolutely. Yep.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Cool.
And then Danny Martinez is literally texting me right now, that all the parking lots are locked up. I have 2 that I'm signing a contract for tomorrow, which I may not sign, because no one has a place to park.
But I know the mayor himself is leaning in to try and get resolution and broker some solutions.
Tim,
It's a good problem, but it's also something that demonstrates the need for us to resolve basically Pike Street South. And, if we had our parking resolved, if there was a comprehensive Oakland County campus that was well integrated to our downtown, we wouldn't be concerned with this. It would be second nature.
Just for future reference, I think the biggest issue was people found out like 2 weeks before. Like if like a normal event like this is a year, And I know it was kind of last minute, I don't know why they moved from M1, I don't remember the whole theory. But if all the business owners knew this a year ahead of time, that changes things. Look, it's great, we want it, it's just how do we?
I think part of it is the layout of Woodward now. There's a kink in it. It's not straight anymore.
They've added a
Oh,
left
you mean
Michigan
In front
left,
of M1.
the
It
recently
changed it.
concluded construction.
It's not straight.
And it's still wrapping up, so I mean, the
Right.
project is, all lanes are not yet open on southbound Woodward, and so I think that greatly impacted it. But the city also was waiting for confirmation on whether this, national organization was gonna go through with it or not, was gonna choose a different city or not. And so, now that we know about road closures, finally, we've been trying to work like the dickens, so we want residents to know too. We don't want people to get snarled up in it. But it could be, similar to Arts Beats and Eats, it could have profound positive implications.
It's a great.
And be our own
project, so
distinct
there's no
event,
complaint from
if
me, it's
done
just
well.
How do we make sure we plan it for
Yeah.
the business owners? So, good, all right.
Anything else for comment, public comment? Yes.
I want to add one thing.
Yes, go ahead.
Mark, can you provide clarification possibly at the next planning commission meeting regarding the storage of vehicles at automotive facilities? Because I know of 3 that I pass, and I think I only pass 3 on the way to work, and they're all, one is like 3 deep, and these cars don't move. And it's an eyesore.
I can
Definitely.
remember the planning commission meetings where Paul's on Huron came up in like 2013, 2012, and where Rubberman tires, are those 2 of the 3 that you're referencing?
The one on Huron, it's so packed, they park in the
And I
apron.
think it might be, and I also would welcome that guidance from, and context from staff, but I think they might have been special exemption situations, which creates their own series of headaches depending on what was stated or not stated at that time, a decade plus ago.
So I'm going to have to review this with legal a little bit and really make an interpretation. And one of 2 things is going to happen. We feel comfortable with the way our code's written, and we just need to make sure that there's proper communication, enforcement, things like that. Or if we feel that it needs to be beefed up, that is consistent with our policy, then we may propose a text amendment, to clarify what that expectation is for those types of uses. So let me talk with them, and I'll give a follow-up next month. So.
And can I add one thing? And this is probably generated by you, but it also takes consideration from the council, is the trailer ordinance, recreational vehicles, boats. We have one that revolves. It's revolving blight. It goes from one street to the next street when they get in trouble with code enforcement. And it revolves between 5 streets. We have literally, I volunteered to do a site survey for District 2, and there's literally semis parked in someone's backyard. There's flatbed tow trucks everywhere. There's landscape trailers and
Parked in yards.
car haulers on Navajo parked on the weekends, and it's significant, to say the least. And our trailer ordinance only really states 4 things. 1, it can't be parked in a community garden, can't be parked in an alley, 5 feet from the rear yard setback, I believe, and I can't remember, maybe front yard. So it definitely needs strengthening.
I'll talk to our manager about that and see what we can do.
Okay, thank you.
Good, great. I'm going to close public comment just to be consistent. All right, I think we're all set.
Beautiful silhouette if it's still out there. I don't know if it's dark yet. I wanted to open the blinds because it's like this purple background, yeah. So,
Well, I would like to have someone propose an adjournment.
So moved.
Support? Support. All in favor? Yay, us. Great meeting, gentlemen. Thank you, team. Great.
And for the future, if anyone ever is feeling parched or hungry, that I do have emergency supplies in the council office.
Oh, thank you.